So you're stuck with me, sort of an ad, not an ad, but it's stuff you probably want to know because we're doing a swim bait episode. If you buy Chris's Loaded right now from Bass Pro Shops, use your club credit card to do it, you get an extra $3. I'll drop the link. So go buy the Loaded if you're wanting it right now and have a Cabela's or Bass Pro club card. Right now is the time to do it. You get a pretty sweet bonus, so shout out to Bass Pro for doing that. Other two things. You're gonna see in this episode that they just released the old XPS back into the wild, the one that Steve Kennedy loves so much. That's also going on with the spring sale, $8.99. I'll drop the link for that one. They told us they've got some special edition swears with the brush tail. I'll drop the link for that one too. So if you're a swim baiter and you want to stock up on swim baits, right now is the time. Spring sale, Bass Pro Shop starts today. Now back to the episode with Steve.
And we'll probably go 45 minutes or so.
No longer. You really gonna talk swim baits with Steve in 45 minutes?
Steve walked in here with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 boxes of swim baits, and
no, that's more. That's
big
6.
ones. There's 8.
So
I left a couple.
This is the swim bait episode. This is the Bilge Podcast swim bait episode, and there's no person I would want to have sitting between Trait and I than Mr. Steve Kennedy himself. Because, I mean, hey, look, I mean, we all saw that Clear Lake episode from, 2007?
Now you're talking.
Did you? Yeah. Dude, we literally, she pulled it up about 2 hours ago before you got here just to kind of refresh our memories. And honestly, so I was just a kid. I graduated high school in 2002, so that's 5 years later. I was just, I was a Clear Lake guy. I was a Delta guy. I recorded that episode on ESPN on a VHS tape, and I used to watch it over and over and over.
He knew every word before anyone said it.
I did. So
I hadn't watched it recently. I don't know what I said, but I remember it pretty well.
Did you throw swim baits prior to 2007? Or was that it right there?
So, no, not much.
Yeah.
I mean, our swim baits were the sassy shads.
Yeah.
I mean, so yeah, I threw those a bunch for white bass type deal.
Yeah.
But no, none of the bigger swim baits. I guess we got started a little before 2007. Rubanus caught them at Amistad, 2006, finished third.
On the XPS.
So he told me about it after he had his mother call. He had called every store in the country, bought them all up. Then he gives me one.
Every Bass Pro in the country.
He'd bought up everyone because they'd already quit making it at that point.
So for those who don't know, the XPS swim bait is the original mag draft, the original harness. The original harness swim bait. It's got a wire in it, like a spinnerbait wire, with very little weight and a treble hook at the bottom. And it's got the original head wiggle, the original tail wiggle, and then they're gone. Like they stopped producing them.
Right. So
you guys rounded them all up.
Yeah. He had rounded them all up. He called every store in the country trying to get them. He gave me one to play with, and anyway, at some point, my dad went into the bargain cave in Macon, Georgia, and he called me up and said, "I found these things back here. They're $2 a piece." And I'm like, "Send me a picture." And he's like, "I'm like, that's the right one." I said, "Buy every one."
But weird colors, good colors.
Right. So I only got, my favorite color, maybe 10 or 12 of them. And,
What was your favorite
that
color?
black back?
No, the black was the one I used at West Point. I'd already used up the others. They were already shredded. But there was a gray back with a little bit of a blue stripe and like a blade with a gray with a green glitter and then a blue stripe and then a pearl belly. And
so what happened?
It looked like a gizzard shad.
Yes.
And the bait really doesn't swim that great. I mean, if you reel it too fast, it rolls.
Sure.
But to me, that was the trigger for it. So you're bringing along, you got a fish coming, and you just speed up just a little bit, and he does you see how they flick on top of the water.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I had some baits that I really, really, really caught a bunch of fish.
So
on.
are you out now?
I'm out of the good color. So I've actually figured out how to paint soft plastic baits, and I've painted a couple, but I just. So anyway, there's so many options now.
So that swim bait's no longer available.
Right. I don't have. So you leave them on the deck and they yellow, I guess is the word.
I want to kick this pod off with a little something for you, Steve, for coming by here. And I'm going to show the camera first and I'm going to show you. This is the original XPS. I forget the name of it. The original XPS shad he's talking about that had gone away, and now it is the XPS comeback shad, and that's for you. How about that, dude? That's the one,
dude. That's pretty stinking
Pull it
close.
out. Pull it out.
Open
It's
it out.
the one.
I want to know.
Is this what y'all hooked me in for right here? So I knew it was coming. I've talked to the guy that was in charge of doing it, and and then I've been talking to Ott. Ott had a pearl white one that he sent me pictures of that was absolutely chewed up. So
that's a light hitch color right there. And that's all yours. That's the only one I have, and I haven't thrown it, and we are saving it for this podcast. So
and I'm gonna go throw it tomorrow just to see what it does.
That does. Yeah.
What makes it so good though? I know you talked about when you speed it up a little bit, it kind of goes off.
It was just, of all the ones that have come out, it is the one you could swim the slowest. I think it's the way, and it's not necessarily the best in all conditions. I think it's best in a shad spawn, gizzard shad spawn situation.
April, May. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I won a couple of years in a row on Mother's Day. Swimming a white jig was my main deal. I'd catch a limit in the mornings in 15, 20 minutes flat, and then I could go throw a swim bait like this. Man, I folded that thing up. I broke it already.
Yeah, you're fine.
But no, you could go throw this all day for 2 5-pound class bites. So I won at West Point on the elites, and I think I won a PAA on Mother's Day. Wow. It's just that time frame. Middle of the country is about
it's something about that suspending kind of like, that presentation that's just above their heads. It's just an easy snack, like a quarter or 3/8 ounce spinnerbait just slowly rolled over the heads and they smoke it.
Right. So anyway, what was I going to say? The mag draft is the one. I know you threw it for a while. I don't know I haven't tried your new baits now, but the mag draft.
I got one of those for you too. How about that? Yeah. We'll give them one of those too. Yeah, there you go.
They're they swim a little bit faster, I guess.
Yep.
So like the blueback lakes, that type of deal.
Yes.
When you're fishing around docks and stuff, and you're trying to get a reaction bite in clear water,
That's right.
guess.
Yeah.
It's a better bait than this would be, I would think. But this was the one they just get on that isolated wood and slow roll it through there. You could come through there with our normal baits, our crankbaits, our jigs, our spinner baits and everything. You would never see a fish on these places.
Nope.
And then you could throw something like this. I mean, we got so many options now, but back then you could throw this over that tree and here they come. I mean, then it'd be 4 to 6 pound fish on every piece of wood. And
so
now everybody does it.
Everyone does. Right. Everyone's got it on.
Right. There's a whole culture of swim bait, glide bait, all that. So, it's hard to compete doing what we're doing the way we did 15 years ago.
You and Fred and Skeet, of course, always did it. I always looked up to Fred and Skeet, growing up out in California. But like going back to that 2007 tournament, so Amistad was put on the map with that comeback shad.
Right.
With Fred. So you arrive at Clear Lake and you've got your jigs tied on, you've got your spinner baits.
Right. So I was into the football jigs at that point.
Okay.
So a guy named not Fred. What was his name? I can't think of his name, but
one of the locals up there.
A guy had put me on the football jig. I'd won at Kentucky Lake. I think it was 2006, 6 or 7 there before we went out there. So it had to be 6.
Yeah.
So I won with the football jig, and we showed up at Clear Lake. Man, that football jig was awesome. I mean, I was catching 60, 70 fish a day. It was incredible. But day one of the tournament, I came in with 20 pounds, and I was in 51st place.
What? At Clear Lake in 2007?
Clear Lake,
Really?
I was in 51st place
with the jig.
With the jig.
And you didn't have the HUD, you didn't have the
So
Ospreys.
we got into town, and I was into the swim bait. We didn't have them back east.
Yeah.
I mean, they were not available. You couldn't order them online. So I went in those tackle stores. There were 2 main stores. I have no idea what their names were, but there were 2 main stores. And before we made a cast, I spent $3,000 on swim baits.
A lot of HUDs.
And I bought, not a lot, I bought just 1 or 2 of everything.
What they cost back then, do you remember?
They were like 25. The HUDs were like
25.
No, they were about $25. They were about $25 for the HUDs. And they had what was the paddle tail?
Bass Tricks.
The Bass Tricks,
Yeah,
right. So Bass Tricks was a big thing.
Yeah.
They had just walls of
Isn't it
that
crazy
stuff.
how it fizzled out? Like, no one throws a hollow belly
So
now. Hardly.
If you get one that swims
Correct.
right.
They changed them, and not good anymore.
Okay, I don't know if he changed them or not, but if you get one that swims right, it doesn't last 15 minutes. It doesn't matter what lake you're on. A fish is going to eat it.
But it gets bit.
It gets bit, right. But I can't carry enough of them to keep them straight.
Right.
To fish.
That's a huge problem.
Right. If they were packaged a little better, I just, and what's the plastic leaches?
Eats through things.
It leaches out and they get harder, stiffer. And so it was so hard to keep up with them. But
for those of you for everyone that doesn't know about the original paddle tail Bass Tricks, I mean, there are numerous tournaments at Clear Lake have been won on it. Gunnersville. But think of it like as a tube, like a flipping tube. Like it's molded as a tube style swim bait. It's a hollow body, and yes, there are still hollow body swim baits on the market right now. But they use a soft plastic, like soft plastic craws and tubes and things like that, creature baits. But before, when they actually dipped these things like the tube process, they're so stiff. And when that tail moves, the whole thing just wiggles.
It's one that swam right.
Oh,
it was a goner.
But it was like one in every pack, right?
Yeah, one out of
and
five.
Now the formula's changed.
1 out of 5 was right to me. But again,
Swindle caught a 10-pounder that tournament on that hollow belly.
So I threw the football jig the first day. I was in a big hole. I'm like, I gotta go throw the swim bait. I'd thrown the Big E, what's the smaller one?
Baby E.
Baby E. The Baby E was a big deal back then.
Yeah.
So
Mini
I threw
Osprey.
So I'd thrown it a fair amount in practice. I'd bought a bunch of them, and I threw it around. Got plus the paddle tail. I had like 30 pounds the next day, but
same areas, fishing the same way.
No, I got totally away from that football jig deal and just went around fishing docks and everything. I mean, everybody was throwing. It wasn't a secret.
Yeah, right.
So so what I found was, what is that thing? Shag rock.
Yeah. Yep.
So there was a bush on the inside of Shag Rock.
Yeah.
That every time I came by it, I'd throw that Bass Tricks up there and I'd catch like a 5 or 6 pounder. But I could see 15, 20 fish.
On forward-facing sonar?
No, we didn't have all that. Come on. Seriously. No, with my eyes. There they are. Big
giants.
Giants. And they'd follow them in. But every time you throw that little bait over there, you'd catch a 5 or 6 pounder. So I had 30 pounds in the box, and I'm coming back headed toward weigh-in, and I pull up there. And I throw the big osprey out there because everybody was throwing that hitch-colored. Yeah, the big hitch-colored osprey was what Skeet was throwing, and the word was out, obviously. But I threw it up there. They followed it all the way boat, nothing. And so then I've been reading. I mean, I've reading on the internet and everything. I'd heard something about dead sticking a HUD, like just let it float. So I put on a floating HUD and bombed it out there and just let it sit. And they collected under it. It was one of the coolest things I've ever seen in my life.
Wow.
There's 15 or 20, 8, 10, 12s. I don't know how big they were, but just milling around underneath it. And then, I'm trying to get them. I let it float forever, and then I'd twitch it one time, and then I'll kind of get over there. And I finally, started slow reeling it in, and I had one like 9 pounds, like suck it down right at the boat, and totally missed him. And then, I didn't have time. I mean, I had time for like one more cast, the same deal, and didn't get bit. And so then the next morning I showed up with like a number 5 HUD. And I've been reading everything. So I had hooks all over this thing. I had hooks on the side. And
you're learning this in a tournament.
In the tournament, right. I've never thrown this bait in my life at all. So what I figured out was you got too many hooks, when they suck it in, the hook hangs
outside
on the outside of the lip. And we had that rule that...
Stupid thing.
Right. Nobody else fishes by those rules, but Bass was enforcing them. So the first 2 or 3, I had to let them go. And I mean,
they were all 8+.
There's some 5 to 8s. Yeah. So the first... Anyway, I caught 8. It took me almost an hour to put 8 in the boat, and I was able to keep 3. And those first, I was able to keep 3. I was able to keep 5, and they weighed somewhere in the 36, 37 pound range on day 3.
Wow.
So it was every time I threw that hut up there. But again, it's low light, it's early, that first hour of the morning, they'd bite at every cast. So anyway, when I was done there, I jumped over to that next big point. It's the most obvious point there.
So
I pulled up on that wall, and second cast, I had one somewhere between 8 and 10 hit me right at my feet. And I set the hook so hard, I broke my line and lost my only HUD.
Your only?
My only HUD. So
five. Yeah.
Well, I must have put lead weight in the zero because that was the only because I didn't have another one. I not have enough.
I thought you spent $3,000 on these baits, but
not on the HUD. On all the difference. I bought the ospreys. I bought the baby E's. I bought all the paddle tails. All the different baits. I mean, there was
everything but
like
the one you needed.
Well, yes, I didn't know what I needed.
And mind you, this is before the glide bait thing too.
Glides weren't even a thing there, right? So
when y'all say HUD the 5, what does that mean?
Rate of fall 5, so it falls 5 feet per.
So zero would be a floater. 5 would fall 5 feet.
It's for 10 seconds. Sorry, it's 5 feet per 10 seconds, I believe.
Okay, and then there's a 12 and a 16.
Okay.
So the 12 and the 16 will have a top hook, and then the 5 and the 0 have like a little hanger for a treble on the bottom.
Okay.
Deal.
But
so
you
they're different. I got them in here.
Yeah, you correlate it to like
got all this we're talking about.
Yeah, bring it out.
Anyway.
Do you have the actual one from?
No, he broke it off.
Well, I broke it off right there, but
that's got to be a 12.
There's more to that story.
Hook,
We need to go back there. So I can't read. Is that a 16? Maybe I don't know.
The top hook ones are all the 12s and the 16s, but now they're all top hook swim baits.
So yeah, that's a 0. I hadn't even been out of the package. That's still original from that after the tournament.
That right there is the OG. I caught my personal best on that guy. The original rainbow trout, Huddleston, and a rate of fall 5. I caught a 14-1 as my personal best. And you said, when you said you pull up the shag rock, it's the most obvious point on the lake. I talk about all the time in my tip videos, like fish the most obvious points, the most obvious structure on the lake.
The biggest, most obvious stuff has always got a big
And that's
fish.
why I always see this guy in practice. I always see this guy in practice fishing the same stuff as me. Out of all the Elite Series anglers, I see this guy more than anyone else in practice because we're always chasing kind of the same bite. But I say that all the time in tip videos is fish the most obvious pieces of structure. Yes, they see crankbaits. Yes, they see jigs. Yes, they see jerkbaits all the time. But for good reason. I mean, big fish live there, and they just absolutely dominate baits that big.
And back 15 years ago, upsizing with these big baits, nobody had them. I mean, nobody had them. So these fish had never seen these things.
It's a little tougher nowadays.
It is a lot harder. It is so much harder now.
Okay, so I want to go back to the story, though.
Okay, so I'm going along. I lose my bait. And then I put on I did the paddle tails again, and then I did the XPS bait. I remember catching a 6-pounder on the XPS. And at one point, I had 2 6-pounders on a balance beam. I mean, I couldn't upgrade all day long on all these other baits, and I'm burning fish and couldn't get bit on the osprey. I couldn't figure that bite out. So later in the day, I come back to that same point, sun's high overhead, and I look down in the water, and that bait is laying on the bottom, like 5 or 6 foot down, but I can see the bait. And I fished it out with my rod tip, tied it on, and I made 2 casts and caught an 8-pounder that got me over.
Wait, the bait you broke off
the bait before? I broke off was laying on the bottom.
She shook it off, and it hit the bottom.
And it was just laying there. And so tied it on, made 2 casts and caught an 8, and it got me over 40.
Oh my gosh, I didn't know that story.
Yes.
Wow.
So, yeah, that was freaking awesome.
You got lucky in that regard. The fishing part, not so much. But
maybe you would have hit the other baits. Yeah. Maybe I was just in the right place again. But
that's so cool.
It was a cool. So then I went to the store again, and I bought a bunch of HUDs and a bunch of other stuff. And the crazy part was I had straightened out the split ring twice, like just hanging by the tips.
Wow.
On day 3 doing that. So I went around, I can't remember, I borrowed some big split
hyper
rings.
Wires. Yeah.
Well, they didn't have, that was before hyper wires. But they were, I got some much bigger split rings to put on there. I put them on all my new baits, but the one I've been throwing that I had tied on, I did not replace it. And that's the one that cost me, that was probably 11 or 12 pound fish. So the one I caught so when they edit the show, they do it like a punch, you know, he catches one, he catches one, he catches one.
Those were the days.
They went down, it went down. So I struggled all day. In the morning we didn't have drones, we had a helicopter.
Yeah.
Freaking helicopter, like right there on top of me, all the way to my spot. And then he goes around the rock, all the way around, and goes right back across where I want to fish, and that thing's going. I don't even think I had a fish until 11 o'clock. I mean, it was brutal morning, and then I ended up. There was one dock that was really good to me. I pulled up there. I caught a 9.2, my first cast, which, you know, the previous days I caught like 5 and 6 pounders with the bass hooks there. There was a bunch of them there, but anyway, I threw out there, caught 9.2. My very next cast was that 11 or 12 that pulled the hook off the bait. And
and you're just using like a crankbait split ring, like you pulled off a 6 or DD22.
Right, yeah, exactly. That's where it probably came from. No, I mean, I had a box full of these things.
Right.
But no, I was just, what does that thing weigh? 8 ounces, I think. So, yeah, you got to have bigger all-around hardware.
So the final day you smoked like 32 or 33.
I ended up with 32. I caught that 9. I lost an 11 or 12, and somewhere in there I caught another 8.
And then released.
And then I went back to the point where I'd lost my bait, and then caught an 8. And I pulled up there, made probably 2 casts again, and that was that 10 that I actually put in the boat and had him hooked right there on the outside of the freaking lip.
Yeah.
Again. Oh, that one hurt me because that was probably my biggest bass. I never caught a true 10.
Wow.
They don't have a lot of them in our area.
That hurts.
For the people,
that was the biggest fish I ever caught in my life, and I had to let him go.
For the people watching, if they were hooked outside the mouth, they had to let them go, even though it wasn't like sight fishing. There was like a salmon rule.
Yeah, so it's per California fishing game. All game fish have to be hooked inside the mouth.
Inside the mouth, and it's intended for snagging salmon
with the bead and all that. But
so yeah, I mean, one of the best guys out there, that Gary Dobbins. I mean, they're fishing jerk baits, rip baits.
All the time.
They don't.
No.
They're hooking them outside the mouth all the time, and
because of the high-profile tournament, they chose to enforce that rule.
That's a rule on St. Clair too, I think. But bass, y'all don't. It's not enforced.
Right,
with
it's
you
not
guys.
intended. It is not intended for bass. The bass obviously struck at the bait. We're not snagging them. I mean, you can see the rod jump when they bite.
So how were you handling that though mentally, like knowing?
Anyway,
he kept his cool. Everyone saw it. He kept his cool. Go look at the YouTube video.
Did you see the one I lost? I was in the freaking fetal position on the front of the boat. It's the biggest bass I ever hooked in my life, and
had to turn it right back.
I curled up in the front. It was
By
bad.
the way,
it was bad. You got to watch the video.
Like we said, we just watched it a little bit ago, and they showed a little shot of Julia and your dog. You're the other dog, the dog you had before COVID.
Louis was a fishing dog.
That's awesome.
He was.
You love your Jack Russells, don't you?
Yes,
those are good dogs. Fun. They are good boat dogs.
He was intense. So he was. Yeah, he.
By the way, you and I were sitting next to each other at the very first tournament last week at Toledo Bend, and when Lisa Talmadge, the tournament director, said, "Oh, you know, it's finally in the rule book. You cannot fish with your dogs, you know, in practice of the tournament." And Steve goes, "Boo!" I'm like, "Yeah, I hear you."
I have never been able to take our dog ever.
Yeah.
I know some of them Menendez did. There's been a couple over the years that were able to, but no, between FLW and Bass, never been able to take them. And I mean, it would have been hard with Louie.
They're better than some Marshalls, aren't they?
It would be hard with either of my dogs because they're hunting dogs that are skewed toward fish. So if it moves, they're on it.
That's awesome. Very cool.
On it.
So you win that tournament, right? So you spent the $3,000 initially.
I spent $3,000 initially. After I won, I went back and invested again. So before I left town, I think I'd spent $10,000
on swimmers
in 2007.
In 2007.
Wow.
But again, they were not available anywhere else.
Right.
I mean, you couldn't go to a store and buy these.
So
and I won a bunch of money on them over the years.
Yeah, sure.
Did you? I know you said that you didn't really figure out the osprey bite during the tournament. Did you ever fish the osprey like after that when you went home with all those baits? Or did you?
I've thrown them some. I still hadn't done really well with that
Really?
bait. I love that color, that
Yeah.
light hitch with a yellow back.
It's
I mean,
just a
great-
line.
Works everywhere.
They caught them. They had a PAA here at Fork, and they smoked them on
Yeah,
it.
I
don't
remember
know
that.
if you remember
I
that.
remember
I'm not
that.
gonna mention where, but yeah,
I remember that.
that
Yeah.
was a big deal. I'm pretty sure we were grouped up, and I'm pretty sure they won doing that here. But
So
By the
what-
way, we're at Lake Fork right now. We just finished up our second tournament. Where the heck was the swimbait bite this week?
I had one bite on a mag draft.
Yep.
I just so in practice. I mean, they were up on the bank where I was. I was swimming a jig. Was one of the second day of practice. One of the best bites I've ever been on.
Wow.
And then we had 2 days of cold.
Front, yeah.
Had sleet. I don't know if you had. I had sleet in the boat the first morning. Anyway, that kills
Not
that
good
shallow
for
bite.
that,
Those
yeah.
guys figured it out in the center of the drains. I mean, they're using the forward-facing sonar, but it's not like they're out there. And some of them were up there in 5-8 foot of water, right back there where I'm swimming a jig. And so yeah, we had Kyle Norsetter. Is that right? He came island in. So Bill Owen's on one side, I'm on the other.
Swimming a jig.
Swimming a jig, and he comes right up the center, which I've done to people in the
Smokes 'em,
past, but
yeah.
he comes right up the middle. I'm like, and he gets up and puts the trolling motor. I'm like, what are you doing out there? I'm just giving him a hard time. He's like, this is where the big ones are. I'm like, he goes back in there and catches like a 712 or 714 right in front of Bill. I mean, I'm like,
So now,
and even seeing all that, I still didn't figure it out.
I was just gonna say. So now's the time to ask: what percentage of your fishing in 2024 revolves around forward-facing sonar?
I mean, we were only 2 events in. Not much.
Both
I
won.
tried it.
Both won,
I had
but
a real good practice day at Toledo. I caught a 6.5 and a 4.5 within 5 minutes out there.
Yeah, you told me.
Throwing a little a thin swim bait on a
G-Rat?
underspin. The new thin swim on an underspin, and anyway, I caught 2 just bam bam. I'm like, wow, I gotta get out of here. There was nobody in sight. I never saw anybody fish there in the tournament, but for whatever reason, they were not there. We had the off day, and that was 3 or 4 days removed, and I never figured out where those fish went. I have no clue. I didn't
And
see
that
them.
was straight up forward-facing.
Right, that's straight up. But
yeah.
you're talking about 24, but 23, I used it a fair amount in scout mode. I'm using the active target. So, yeah, I'm using it in scout mode primarily as just a practice tool, not actually visually
See what's
looking
there,
at them
right.
eat the bait. And, I did it some, but through 7 events, I feel like I had the bites be leading AOI
Wow.
without doing this at all. I, just missed bites, whatever. I was in 20th place. And then, anyway, I had a boat issue at Champlain. I got a 4-pound penalty, which put me
Way
in a hole,
Oh,
right.
yeah.
And then I gambled going out toward the lake instead of going up in the river. And anyway, I ended up 50th and not making the classic. So I dropped from 20 to 50 in 2 events. But, I had a fuel line pop off, and it took me a few minutes to figure it out. I was within sight of the ground.
dang.
So
It actually popped off. It was really rough that day, but I actually popped off in the cove back before. So I switched back to the tank I'd been running all day, and I told my guy, we're not going to make it. There's no way.
You have enough fuel in it.
Right,
but
in
not
the
vapors.
good tank, right. So I made it within 2 miles, and
So when you're swimming a jig in a creek on one side and Bill Owens on the other side, and a Kyle Norsetter comes right down the ditch, live scopes up a bunch of big ones. I mean,
It
does
was
that
only one, but-
does that make you want to get in a fetal position, or does that? Or
no,
not at all.
Not at all. No,
Yeah.
I wanted to figure it out. I went around to the next one and
Tried it.
attempted.
Yeah, yeah.
But I wasn't dialed in. It was
Yeah.
just it's
So
hard to
you're
do.
you're kind of like me. I mean, you have to adjust to it, right? You got to
Yes.
use it, or else you get left
yeah,
behind.
I mean,
right?
if we're going to have that discussion, I have an engineering degree.
Yeah.
I'm not opposed to technology at all. I'm
Yeah,
not scared of
that's
it.
awesome.
But I can't just change everything I've been doing. I'm behind on it. There's no question. Most of the older guys
Is
are
it tr-
behind on it because
Yeah,
the guys that are doing it had to run what I consider a gauntlet with with the
The opens.
opens. They got
Yes.
225 guys. They got 5 days of practice where they're beating up everything shallow. And they really don't have much of an off limits.
Yep.
I mean, as far as getting info. So yeah, they're. I mean, by the time they
bringing
get
it.
to us, they're dialed in
bringing
with
it.
that, right? And we're. I mean, I love it. I love it as a practice tool, especially. But
Is it true?
but I
rigged up-
don't know which bait to throw. I don't. There's so much I don't know, and I think they're learning. I mean, if you watch, they're
Learn
especially
as they
here.
go.
They're throwing. Some of them are throwing Nico rig. Some of them throwing a mop jig. Some of them are throwing the little jig head. But they kind of got away from that, and they got on
Yeah,
the jerk bait.
jerk
I mean,
bait.
they're not. You know, it's not all about forward facing sonar. There's a lot of stuff playing out
it.
here.
Yeah.
Do you, I didn't know we were going to take it here, but real quick, do you worry about it? Because you're all about conservation. Do you worry about it from a conservation standpoint?
It's not going to have a significant impact on any of the lakes we typically fish.
You think?
There's none. So yeah, coming out of college, my first job, I went to work for the Georgia DNR.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I've spent time in the shock boat processing fish. I know exactly what they do. Most of the biologists that were there didn't know how to use a computer. I was coming straight out of college and didn't know how to use a computer. So I actually set up computers, networked everything for everybody. And I actually did the software they use to process the fish to generate all their plots.
Oh,
and
wow.
So, to do all that, I had to understand what they're doing and stuff. So I got a pretty good idea of what's going on as far as, fisheries, how long they live, mortalities, all that stuff. And so a typical lake, when you're talking about something like Guntersville, they've done studies, all the fishing pressure out there, maybe half the fish get caught in a given year, even as much pressure as they get. This lake here, probably 50, 60%.
A little higher, maybe. Yeah.
Right. It's a smaller lake.
Yeah.
It's just...
So
but
then,
even with all the pressure it gets, you're still only catching half the fish. When you start talking tournament mortality, even like 20% delayed mortality, which is a very high number, you're still only talking like 1 to 2% of a fish population. There's some of the bigger fish, but you're still only talking 1%. For fish populations to work, they only live 10, 12 years. So
Yeah.
so somewhere between 40 and 50% of the fish have to die every year over year.
just a cycle.
Just for the normal cycle. So yeah, so 40 or 50% is a typical number mortality, whether we catch them or not.
Not right.
So you can protect the bigger fish like they're doing here, but it's going to be at the expense of the younger fish. So I had the smallest limit weight in here at 11, 13.
Wow.
The first day, the smallest limit was 13 and a half. They had the whole setup for this lake was a low water event, an extended low water event from 2010 to 2015. So the water came up in 16. You get a big spawn.
Yes.
And we've been hitting it here for the last couple of years. They grow really fast, and, especially when that water first comes up. So now these fish are getting into those bigger fish are in that 9-year-old range, and they only live, 11, 12, 13.
Right.
13 is extremely old this far
Yes,
south.
yes.
So, all those big fish in the next 3 years, in my opinion, more than 90% are going to be gone within 3 years. That's reality.
Yeah.
So there's still a bunch of 3 and 4 pounders. The lake's not going to just completely collapse, but it's going to be significantly different
Interesting.
shortly. I believe that. I really do. I could be wrong, but I've been looking at these lakes for a long time. I actually went to OHIV a couple of months ago.
Yeah.
So there's still some of those bigger fish, but the 14 to 17 inch
Lots.
are some of the
Lots.
most stunted fish I've ever seen in any lake. So
Yep.
the water came up, flooded all that grass. They had a tremendous spawn, and now the lake is coming down. So in the same way that those fish got big, fat, huge,
Right.
now then they're not growing at all. So a 14-inch fish weighed a pound.
Yep.
Yeah, you
A
need to get
17-inch fish wouldn't weigh 2 pounds. I mean, so
you need
Last-
to cycle.
yeah,
them out.
last-
and you could catch 50 or 100.
Yes.
I mean, when the bite was on, it was water was in the 40s when we first got there. And we
Last
didn't-
year, I went out with Josh Jones on OHIV to show me some things, forward-facing sonar, just how he does it out there. He's caught more 10-pounders out there than anyone. He caught several skinny ones, like skinny big
ones. Yeah.
Yes.
So,
and just like you said, with that water level,
the bigger ones can eat bass. So they're doing okay.
Right.
I feel like there was a 13, a 15 caught a week or two before we were there. So there's still some giants in there, and they're in
interesting
and have good condition. But those fish right there are just they're dying just from old age, basically.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
But yeah, the smaller fish are just totally overpopulated right now, and until they correct that and allow people to take them out, you're putting off that next. Or you could have a big rain event and flood the place again, and those fish could fatten up. They're still never going to be giants though,
Right,
because they've lost all that growth.
Right. There's too much
They've
competition.
lost a couple of
right?
years of growth. Yes, they've lost a couple of years of growth potential just by being so stunted right now.
Interesting.
We're supposed to be talking swim baits.
Wait, hold on. One more thing outside of swim baits. I mean,
you can do whatever you want with it.
You're an engineering guy, a tech guy, and a little bit ago you said you're not against forward-facing sonar. Is it true that you were like the only guy in the country that we have the 2D transducers on the trolling motor? Were you like the only guy who moved it like 45 degrees and had it on the side of your trolling motor where you were shooting it to the right or the left?
That's because I hit a stump. I never. We probably did play with that at some point, but no, I was probably the first guy that really knew what side scan sonar was when it came out.
Yeah.
So they had guys that were getting paid by Humminbird at the time that had no clue what it was, and so they had internet was, I guess, a thing at that point. So there were hobby sites telling how to build a side scan.
Wow.
So that's basically where they got the idea from. The difficult part was they were towing a torpedo. Right. The transducers were.
Is this for search and rescue though? Like
right,
mainly,
right?
Yeah.
And the transducer was 3 foot long, an inch wide, whatever. But the transducer for one side was $10,000. Yes, and then you had to drag that behind it. But I bet I had 500 hours of research into how to do this. I wanted one bad. So yeah, my best years were in that 06, 07 time frame when that first came out, and I won at Kentucky Lake. And
so you've taken advantage of a tech.
I have, and that was by far my best years for about 2 years there.
Was there?
I was winning $300,000-$400,000 a year.
Was there a big uproar then on that technology?
It wasn't as much as what you're seeing here, but yeah, you heard the same thing. Dad, they did an article on him way back, the master of open water bassing. I grew up in a boat fishing out there in open water with a flasher. I heard Davey Height talking today, talking about triangulating and all that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's where I grew up fishing. So, I drug a Carolina rig around so much, I don't want to ever do it again. But I
feeling your way around, yeah.
Yes, but anyway, that was how I grew up fishing. So, being able to go along and just idle through there and see what I've been trying to find with baits and just normal sonar was just eye-opening. And again, you're talking about island. We were at Okeechobee, and the water was down. Everybody was catching them in the rim canal. And I went island right down the middle of the canal, could see both sides.
Yeah.
And when I found what I wanted to fish, I go over there and throw over there and catch one. And there's just guys just lying down the bank. And they come up to me after the tournament. They're like, "What are you doing?"
And you
saw it first.
Right, I could see it.
Yeah.
Right, they had no idea what they were fishing. They had no idea. But there's places of outcroppings, rock outcroppings that are there that, all you had to do was find the right place, and it was automatic. And
that reminds me of something I saw you do one time in practice. Maybe it was during the tournament. You were like idling in the console, right? You were side imaging or whatever. And you had a rod in your hand, and you weren't on the trolling motor. Trolling motor was stowed, obviously, and you were just side scanning around. And I remember you seeing something on the side, and I think you'd kill the motor and just fire over there, and you're sitting down in your console. That's an amazing.
I do that a lot in practice. So you idle over them, throw right back down your prop wash, and catch them. I'm throwing swim baits. We were fishing Hartwell. I guess it was a classic here just recently. And yeah, you could idle right down the center of that ditch and see them and turn around, fire back out there and catch him first cast. I caught a 4-pound largemouth in the tournament. I don't know if I was sitting down. I think I stood up, but yeah. And anyway, I found some here idling out of a pocket. You know, I said I didn't catch one, but I was idling out, saw 3. I'm like, stood up. First cast, I had one follow it all the way up to the boat, and then I sat down and rigged up that stupid jig head thing that everybody's been doing at Toledo.
It is stupid.
And I threw it out there. It took me maybe 2 or 3 casts, and I hit one and hooked up and lost him. So anyway.
You don't have a live transducer in the rear like some of these guys do?
No, I haven't done that. I've got 1 unit on the front. Like I said, I was doing really well last year with a 12 in the front and a 16 in the back. This year I've gone to a 16 and a 16.
Can you walk me through?
But I'm convinced I'm gonna put a second unit on the front. I'm gonna have a
second unit for scout.
I want a scout
yes.
in of her.
Yeah,
right.
that's beneficial.
I couldn't, so I saw fish in scout mode here. I was switching back and forth, and it was, you know, it's not all that much time to do it, but I could see fish on the scout, and I couldn't tell how deep they were. Can
you walk me through your thoughts on some of the guys who have live transducers on the rear of their boat as they're idling, knowing that cone is so thin when you idle by?
I don't even know what they're seeing when they're doing that. I don't know. I
think
haven't
about
tried
when you're regular live scoping, you're panning, right? Like there's one fish right there and you're panning by, and you just squeak by it and it just boom, just appears as a dot, right?
Right. So
just
you
as
you're focused on
exactly.
that.
When you're idling, like you see a fish out to the right, boom, it just shows it really quickly, and it's not like side imaging where that image stays there and it shows it across the screen, right?
Right.
And you know kind of
So
exactly.
if they're in that, you know, black area before you get to the bottom, they're very obvious on side scan. I mean, I love doing that, but yeah, once they get out into where the bottom, you got a bottom return, it gets really hard to tell what's a fish and what's not.
Because there's several guys, maybe a dozen guys who have live transducers on their transom right now. But in 2 tournaments, you know, the guys who have done well these last 2 tournaments in the top 10, not a peep out of, I found these fish because I was idling by with live sonar. You know, like you haven't heard any of that.
No, I haven't. And you know, I don't know who's got what. We really need to be. They may be keeping up with it, but I need to keep up with it. Yeah. I would like to know. Yeah. You know, who's got the 500 foot out the front, or
Trait's gonna get back to the swim bait thing. I know it. I could tell.
We got a whole box.
Yeah, we gotta go. This is supposed to be swim baits.
Yeah,
we can do a round 2. That's not swim
let's
baits.
get back to the swim bait stuff.
Y'all are killing me over here.
What? Okay.
So what'd you bring?
It's worth talking about.
Show us some swim baits. What'd you bring? So what? Okay, so
how we do this?
Wait, before we do this, because I had a question. What didn't you like about the Osprey? Was there something, how it moved or something that you just didn't vibe with? It's just a line through, right?
It's a line through, right? I love the color. I mean, I've caught some fish on it, but it's just never. I don't know. It's not very realistic looking for the bait fish that we have in the East. Right. It's intended to be a hitch bait,
right?
And it's just didn't play
for you anywhere
but
else.
Like I said, they caught them here at Fork. I mean, I know for a fact that was the bait they caught them on here. So
interesting.
But I never got into it. But again, there's so many options now.
I think this is the furthest east like an Osprey style swim bait has ever played in like a major tournament. I mean, if you think about it, like any of the Carolinas. Never in Florida, never in Georgia, where like that profile, like you're talking about, ever like really kills it.
So why are you asking about that one so much?
Yeah. What do you got? What else do you got?
What do you got going there?
I got one more question before we do this. With the HUDs, did you take them back east and do well with them, or
I didn't? I never did extremely well.
There's a trout thing.
So yeah, there are some lakes that have hatcheries. I have talked to people that have caught big ones. They're stock trout. They used to stock trout like in Lanier. I mean, so, you know, we didn't talk about that. But the reason I was able to pick up these big baits, part of the reason was we used to fish Lanier at night for stripers. So the big bomber plugs, the big red fins, go out there and throw them at night. And we actually caught big spotty bass. I mean, 5-pound class
Joe
spots.
Cassie, too. You ever, Joe Cassie, the one in Georgia.
I don't know that one.
I thought that was in the Carolinas, no.
It's Georgia, isn't it?
But we actually, you
Maybe
know, we
it's-
knew the guys that worked at the DNR, and we'd get a heads up when they dumped the trout in, and we'd go up there and, yeah, we'd catch some big stripers at night doing that deal. So,
Is it the wedge tail though that makes it so more
It's
of a
just
trout
subtle and it just stays in their face. It's just a very, very unique bait, unique tail. There's been other lure companies that have tried. Of course, they got sued. I mean, that wedge tail is definitely unique, one of a kind, and it definitely gets bit. But they've tried it with like the 6-inch baits, right? Like the 6-inchers and the smaller baits, and it just seems like that 8-inch profile works perfectly with that wedge tail.
so
What'd you bring us?
So, well, I was going to say I did catch some at Falcon on the HUD. I
On the
remember
HUD?
catching them at Falcon on the HUD, but I didn't do extremely well. I had 49 pounds and didn't make the 50 cut.
Oh,
That'll hurt your feelings.
wow. 25 a day.
Sounds like this. week.
Yeah. So, and I had opportunities. That's pretty much my MO everywhere. I throw in the big baits, you lose.
So what's your new thing is G-Rat, right? You're working with
G-Rat,
G-Rat. Yeah,
G-Rat,
good,
oh.
good.
Yeah,
kind of custom.
Let's go through
Here,
one
let's
box
go
at a
there.
time.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, Pete Robbins asked me, do an article, and we talked about it. So the bait I pick up first.
You love this thing.
I love this thing. I love the profile of it. I don't have them with me, but I
It's
have.
injected, huh? I hear the rattles in it. It's in
Yeah,
plastic
it's-
injected.
Yes, it's got rattles. I love that color, the blue back.
He's got a
I
camera.
chartreuse the sides.
This is the one that you painted as a yellow perch and you used on the St. Lawrence River
right.
catching
That's
6
what I was going to
pounders.
get to. I don't have. I took them out because I couldn't. You see
Can't
how
bring
much I got? I
everything?
couldn't put it all in the boat, so I actually took them out. I wish I had them with me. So yeah, I've been painting them up as a
Listen
yellow
to
perch.
that. That's like loud. It's like a 6XD, 10XD loud.
right. So practice bait.
It's not a resin
that
bait,
or
it's
the
plastic.
Papa Pete. The Papa Pete version is the.
So you said you.
This is the bait I want to practice. This is the bait I practice with, just to see
It's a
the
10-incher.
fish.
Yeah.
Just to see the fish.
So they show themselves.
So they'll
without
show
that.
themselves, right? So I throw that a lot. This one, like I said, the perch that I've been custom
10-incher.
painting, they're gorgeous. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm pretty proud of them, but I don't have them.
A little quieter.
uh, Yeah, it doesn't have the rattle. But so when I do the perch, this is a relatively heavy bait, and I actually
is.
quiet it up. So I actually drill out. It gets
The
pretty
rattles.
long. I drill out one of the rattles,
Yeah.
front and
Balls.
back, and then I put in a lead like jig head or a split shot
Split
or
shot.
something.
Yeah. And then epoxy it up.
Epoxy, but I also drill a hole or two, and I spray foam it.
Yeah.
So it
Like a HUD. Yeah.
So
So,
it's-
it stays back up the whole time.
and
Yeah.
it doesn't. Yeah, it doesn't ever fill up with water.
Yeah.
If you crack it on a dock, I'm pretty bad about hitting docks with them. So I really
Spray
doctor it
foam.
up and then custom paint it, and I've caught some good bags with it. And anyway, I don't have one to show. I wish
So
I did.
when did you come
Very
across
cool.
that bait?
So I met he must be similar age to you. His name's Garrett Dixon. I think that's correct. And he's from Clear Lake. I think he said he was 17 when I won at Clear Lake back then. So I met him at
Yeah.
ICAST.
Same age as me. Yeah.
He gets excited.
That's cool.
I don't know all that much about him, but he gets excited when he's around me. I love it. Absolutely love it. And I'm a
Very
fan.
cool.
I'm a fan. He's been good to me. He hooked me up with baits for years, and yeah, now I got on the jersey.
Can I
But-
ask you something? So when you were winning a lot, and I mean you're still gonna win, but you're winning a lot in the mid 2000s. Did you ever have like a major, like a Strike King or Apollo said, Steve Kennedy, we want to sponsor you? What?
No,
Yeah,
No,
never.
Never.
They never approached you.
No,
You never approached
not
them.
directly.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah,
Anyway,
Don't
I
need
know,
it. yeah,
No, but
yeah.
I probably could have worked something. I've
Yeah.
heard somebody talk to somebody,
Sure,
but
sure.
nobody has had a conversation with me, and
Wow.
Yeah.
so
That's crazy.
I've never worried about it.
No
but,
one's ever, big companies said, we want to make swim baits with you?
No, never.
Wow.
No, not directly. No.
This industry. My
I
God.
just no, but anyway, he's got a
Anyway.
little one called a Pistol Pete, and
That's a little
So-
smallmouth killer, spot killer.
yes, and who was it? Rabanus's kid, Jackson, had one at ICAST going out in the ponds down there in Florida, and he was catching like 7-pounders
Smoking them.
on that little thing.
Little pistol
So yeah,
Pete.
if you're trying to get into
It's
glide baits and don't want to throw some of
Sure.
this. I mean,
that's intimidating,
right,
right?
right.
Yeah.
This is what I want to throw.
Of course.
But so anyway, yeah. If you just want to catch a fish, that's going to be a lot easier. This is more for finding followers in practice type deal. And
So,
it would be perfect if I could actually catch some on it, but it's rare to find the right fish.
So back in 07, I remember watching the show, and you had a Corrado 200 and a flipping stick and probably, 20-pound monofilament. How much has changed from then to now? Like, what is your swim bait setup now to throw the big boy there?
I mean, I was throwing it on a flipping stick, but I was still throwing the old green Corrados. Nothing's changed there.
Heck
but,
yeah, I love it.
I got Gary, is it Dobbin? Yeah, Gary Dobbins hooked me up with a couple of 806,
806, 795,
and the 867. I don't have the 795.
Yeah.
I also got the chatterbait rods,
Those
the
are good.
735,
Yeah.
736. I like those.
But isn't it nicer having that longer butt to launch those things?
It's a little more than I want.
A little
but-
cumbersome, yeah.
A little more than I want, but yeah, it does help. It helps on the shoulders and
When you're
wrists and
bombing,
everything
yeah.
else. Yes, but yeah, I originally just the old flipping stick.
What is that guy right there?
That's a phony.
Yeah.
But I custom painted
Phony
it.
frog,
So,
custom
yeah.
painted, yeah.
So
Look at
yeah,
that thing.
like I said, I like that color. You see a similarity?
beautiful.
Every one of them.
Like a blue sheen
I love that little
with a little
blue
chartreuse. And
So yeah, I think
gotta
it's
have a chrome base, like that little chrome shiny base. Yeah.
So yeah, that's one I painted myself.
It's almost like a modified citrus shad. Like a citrus shad's like way too much. Like
right.
way
yeah,
too
they're
much.
too harsh.
Yeah.
So it's a tone down.
That's
I love
beautiful.
the blue. I think it's reflecting the blue sky type deal.
Beautiful.
And yeah, I'm proud
Do you
of
like?
that one.
Do you like the phony?
It's harder to get them to swim, but yes, I love the profile. Absolutely love the
beautiful
profile, and they're
profile.
easier to get than the one that's
I've got
look like a hinkle. Oh
got
look, I got
several
one of
of
those
these,
that color too.
Oh, there's the bad boy right there.
So yeah, anyway.
That's the
That's
mother
a
of all swim baits
that's
right
a
there.
hinkle?
Yeah, that's a
That's
hinkle
a
shad.
hinkle.
Yeah.
Do you
And
throw?
again, I
Retail, remind me-
painted that, but
Remind me, retail. What do these cost retail?
I don't know.
Like $1,000
If
these
you order
days?
it from him directly, it's not going to show up till a year or never.
I think it's like 400, 500 or
No,
something like
I don't
that.
think I don't think he personally gets that much. Maybe 180, 200.
Oh, okay.
But
I got that one for $250 unpainted, secondhand.
Steve, you
obviously.
don't strike me as the guy who sits there and waits on
And
the
now-
internet for these drops, these swim bait drops.
Oh, I hate the drops.
Yeah.
Dude. I
Yeah.
despise. They have no idea the market they're missing. They're not even trying, dude. They're not even trying. They make what they can make, and that's it.
Yeah.
And
yep.
they're not even.
Do
I
you-
mean, some of these baits could have a huge market, and they're not even
Is
trying.
the hinkle worth it?
I like having one. Yes, there's a time and a place. I've had
So
some huge bites on
What's
it.
the time and
I've
what's
also
the place?
lost some huge ones.
Gizzard shad
I
spawn,
just-
May.
Like where like do you
I
know?
mean, this is a perfect lake for it, but they're not sitting up in the tops of the trees. They're down 4 or 5 foot. I like them up high. And I've had some practice days here with that bait that, I mean, it blow your mind.
really?
But it's like it's always the front comes through, something happens.
Yeah.
It's never there for a tournament. You can shake off 10 fish over 8 or 10 pounds, and none of them will be there for the
So
tournament.
what's the perfect conditions for a hinkle shad for you? Just it.
Overcast, wind, a little light,
What
5
month?
to 10.
What month?
But yeah, we were here in May.
Yeah,
Last time
May
we were
is,
here in
like,
May,
perfect.
right. So they're postponed. They're sitting up high in those trees.
Just
And there's-
munching those.
Right. They're not going to be there all day. There's a window. I mean, I ended up throwing a smaller bait last time and got 7 or 8 bites in 2 hours, and I landed one out of the bunch. But
Interesting.
anyway, yeah, it's one of those it'll burn you so bad. When it happens, it happens. It's incredible. So
I'm looking at you just picked up like a crappie profile, and I see some bluegill profiles. What are your thoughts on those? I know
I haven't done real well.
neither have
know.
Neither have I.
Who was it?
You know they eat crappie, but it's like
right.
yeah.
So Brandon got some bites on it last last year.
Yeah.
But
On a crappie bait?
on a crappie bait,
Yeah.
but he didn't land them. So
Yeah.
the negative to me is they don't have the rotating hook hanger.
Mm.
So that's a big deal, dude. I think it is. So
He's talking about a swivel inside the hook eye there.
so yeah, so like the G-Rad, it's got a big, almost saltwater sized swivel there. So when the fish jumps and the bait twists around, it doesn't have
You got
anything.
those fish,
Any
yeah.
Right.
leverage.
He doesn't have any leverage. So yeah, I think these have got swiveling, but that bait in particular does not. There's another one.
That's a
We're
pretty
gonna have to
pretty
get- we're gonna have to-
crappie.
Yeah, we're gonna have to get there eventually. But
That's a really
Where
pretty
do you
crappie.
go to get your swim baits? Do you have a guy you go to, or
I
do you just
got
sit
on the
sit on the internet?
I got on the internet. So there's what's the place? Swimbait.
Universe.
Swimbait. Yeah, Tackle Warehouse has got us. What is there? Swimbait Universe. That's right. So yeah, Swimbait
Yeah.
Universe,
That's
and
the
then-
Facebook group. Yeah.
and then the Facebook. So wait a minute. What are the two? The Swimbait Universe
Oh,
is the
Swimbait
Facebook
Universe.
group,
yeah.
right? So
you're
what
thinking
is
about Swimbait Underground?
Swimbait
maybe?
Underground? So yeah,
Yeah,
I got
yeah.
on there. They got a buy sell type deal there. So I got on that one, and then I found the Swimbait Universe on
What's
on
your hand-
Facebook, and I missed all this stuff until COVID, basically. I mean, I knew some guys were throwing glides, but dude, I totally missed this bite for
So you
5
never
or 10 years. I don't know. None of our guys were talking about it. Not to me, anyway.
you
And
never threw the Roman negotiator back before?
I missed that one.
Did you
I
miss
have
it?
one.
That's a
I don't
good one,
have it.
yeah.
I don't even have it with me. But
Yeah.
yeah, no, I missed that.
Wow.
I missed that for several years. It hurts my. But nobody was talking about it in the tournament world to me. So, but yeah, somewhere with COVID, I had a lot more time to get
To
online,
look around.
look around, and catch up on what was going on. And yeah, I found that stuff, especially Swimbait Universe, was just
What is
totally
your-
eye-opening as far as what's out there and available. And
What is your handle on Swimbait Universe? Auburn Tigers fan?
it's probably the same as everything else.
Yeah.
SK Fishing.
There,
but
yeah.
I don't.
I've seen
I
you
don't-
pop up on BBC when I've looked on
Oh
BBC.
yeah, I'm in there a lot, but.
So you do
Anyway.
wait for the drops then? I can.
Well, no, I
Nah,
don't.
yeah.
I have never bought one on a drop.
Okay,
I've
gotcha.
never bought one
Gotcha.
straight up on maybe I may have gotten some citizens
What's
on a
that
drop.
That's a pretty one.
That's gorgeous. So that's a bull shad.
Bull shad?
Bull shad 9-inch. This is probably
That's
the
pretty.
widest swimming glide that I've seen. It just you can half step it back under a dock.
Yep.
Just out of sight, gone. But again, it's a 9-inch bait. It's hard to find the right fish in a tournament situation
Very hard.
to throw this.
Yeah.
But it's a really cool bait.
What's the,
I really like it.
What's the perfect size bait for a tournament situation in a glide?
7
Yeah.
inch.
Not
I
8,
just-
but 7. Yeah.
Right. I can't. Anyway, not a glide, but it qualifies as
Like
a
the
swim
difference,
bait.
like the difference between an 8-inch swim bait and a 7-inch swim bait is 2 bites versus 7 bites, and like period, like that is it in a day. 7 bites on a 7-inch, 2 bites on an 8-inch.
That's yes.
That's it.
That seems to be what I've been seeing.
Yeah.
That's-
Yeah.
I like throwing the big ones. I like throwing the 10-inch.
Yes.
That's what I like to throw.
Yeah.
But
Right.
And that's 1 bite.
but
So-
right, but you're taking a risk.
So
You're
that
taking a
bull
big risk.
shad, if you could have that same wide glide in a 7-inch, that's what you would prefer.
Actually, so
That's hard to accomplish.
right,
The
you
smaller
can't-
the bait, the
you
smaller the
can't
stride.
get
Yeah.
that wide.
Yeah.
right, but you also can't say there's so many different situations. There's not one ideal
Right.
deal.
Right.
So,
Right.
like here, these fish are sitting down. To me, most of them are down 4 or 5 feet. So, the bait I probably caught the most fish on, like last year, was the trick shad. That's a bull shad.
Is
And,
it? I've never thrown that one.
That's the one that's probably the most popular right now, and it's a 7-inch bait. Oh, excuse me.
You're good.
But it
That's a
chops.
resin. That's a
It-
resin bait, not a plastic bait.
Right. Yeah.
It's a chopper.
It's a
Chop.
chop.
Yeah.
So you chop it real fast, and it dives.
Yeah.
It goes down. If you slow down, it comes up.
Ooh. Interesting.
I don't know if that was intended. I don't know,
Interesting.
but that bait in particular does that. So I can get around a piece of wood and chop it down in there, and then if I want to come up over a limb, I slow down. It's the exact opposite of every other bait that I have. And anyway, it's been a good one. I'm
all
impressed.
the others sink like here this week. You know, I mean.
But like here, I tried to throw it. I had a fish follow it here this afternoon. I went and tried to catch him on it, and
on this exact one?
on that exact bait. I threw it for a while just today, and it just sinks so slow you can't get it down to
where
the
they're
fish.
at.
Right? It's like that's the wrong bait. So anyway, I'm gonna go back with my Sneaky Pete. I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna catch one on that tomorrow. I guarantee you.
How many swim baits do you have rigged up? During your
I've
tournament?
I typically just have one big swim bait rod out, that 867 with the snap on the front, and I just swap baits.
Yeah,
I can't
same here.
I can't fit. I got the 806 in the box too, but yeah, that's all I have. Right, you can't carry.
You let that voice tell you, okay, I need to be throwing this one instead of that one, but keep one rod. Yeah,
right. I can't. Right, I got that era bow. The front deck's pretty narrow, so I typically only have 6 rods in the front, and then I'll have 3 or 4 rigged back in the back there that I can grab for stuff.
Interesting.
But you know, it depends. It
I'm
depends.
saying, you got a lot of baits.
I brought it all. We came to Fork and Toledo.
Yeah.
I brought it, so let's talk about it.
This is awesome.
Anyway, I got a mess here, and if I turn loose of that, I'm gonna dump it. But
isn't it crazy? Like the best way to store swim baits. I see you got Ziploc bags inside of larger.
You don't want them rubbing on each other. They're so hard.
It's hard to store swim baits.
So they've got some new boxes. Who had it?
You talking about the hanging boxes where you hang them from the nose?
No, they're hanging them right. That's too big a box. But there's some boxes now with foam on each side.
Yep.
And they're only like an inch thick.
Yep.
I can't remember who had them though. And he said they quit making them and he couldn't get any more.
That's how I've been storing my swim baits for 10 years. I take foam strips and just S-turn them in there and then just lay them in with the S-turn, and it keeps them upright.
Right. So, yeah, the bull shad swimmers.
That's a double jointed. Triple,
burning that over something like milfoil or something when you got a shallow bite.
See, to me, those multi-jointed ones are like herring, like just burn, pause, burn,
stop,
pause.
burn and stop. Yeah. And I've had some incredible bites.
Have you really?
I have, yes. It's cool baits.
Like tournament-sized bites, 5s and 6s, but for like trophy hunting, like the multi-jointed is not a 9, 10, 11 pounder.
So, but yeah, that's a bull shad.
Yeah.
Bluegill glide. Painted by Jen Kravitz. Is that her name?
That's her
right.
name.
I like her. She's been good to me.
Yeah.
That's pretty.
And
we know who she is.
You know who that is?
Yeah, we hope to use her in the future for some business stuff.
So, and then I had that one in my hand a little while ago, but that's a Matt Lures Magnum Bluegill. That's a swimmer. This one works really well in current. So we got all those shoal bass over there.
Yeah.
And you throw that thing out there, and it
that
thumps almost like a chatterbait.
That looks like a tilapia to me. How about this on the St. Lawrence or St. Johns River when we're there in like April?
Anyway.
Could be.
I like.
He said anyway.
Anyway,
let's not talk about that.
Let's not go there.
That's a tilapia.
Yeah, you're talking about 7-inch bait. So I've got another one painted up that same color, a big BGC, Big Game Customs.
Yeah.
7-inch.
Wow, you got a nice collection.
Yeah, so I got it. This
that
is
was
the
a
first
different
box,
too.
dude.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah, we're not.
We got 8 more to go.
Yeah, that's
that one's got some good hook rash on it. You fished the hell out of that one.
I like that one, but again, it doesn't have the swivel hangers, and
so they get leverage.
They get leverage, and they throw it. It drives me bonkers. So. But
that's tough.
That was a good swim. That one doesn't chop it. It just got a good for a 7-inch bait. It's got a really good wide glide.
Are you a Gamakatsu 2X hook?
Yeah. I don't like the
I
turned
boat flipped
in.
so many big ones on that hook right there.
And then Matt Lure's strong shad. We got the good stuff coming. But there's some good looking shad baits. Just the regular hard gill, bluegill.
Yeah.
Do you throw a lot of the bluegill ones?
When they're on it, yes.
So what's
here? Did you ever see a bluegill? We had this conversation. I hadn't seen a bluegill up shallow yet.
One. Not
The
one.
lake's full of shad, but you don't see bluegills, so I didn't throw it here.
And that's why I stick with all the shad imitators. Gizzard shad.
Yeah. Anyway, we're getting close to the bottom here.
Just dumps it. Oh my gosh.
If you want to get through them,
Yeah.
let's do it. But so that's the this is probably one of the more expensive ones you can find right here. The 6-inch HPH.
Oh, I've heard about that one.
The
High-powered
6-inch
herring?
High-powered herring,
Yeah.
6-inch. That's one of the hardest. I don't think he's made any in a while. And
Really?
I've got 2 of them.
I got buddies who swear by this thing. I don't know.
I haven't caught all that much on it, honestly, but it's they catch them on it. I assume they're chopping. I assume they're chopping that one. I hadn't figured it out because.
And when you say chop, it's like bringing it, half reel at a time, or even pulling it with
I think
the
they're
rod.
doing. I think they're doing faster
with the rod. Yeah,
I think they're doing it faster without.
Instead of the glide.
Right. It's.
Yeah.
Anyway, I hadn't
Chop,
figured.
chop, chop, chop.
I've got them.
Yeah.
They're some of the most desired ones you can find. I got lucky.
But you
So
still,
we were talking about the underground buying baits. They're gone within 2 minutes.
Isn't that crazy?
And I got 2 of them relatively cheap.
but you still haven't figured out how to really.
I haven't
implement 'em.
figured out. I carry it with me, but I've not done well with it.
Interesting.
But I have it.
Wow.
Proud of it. Won't give it up. But yeah, I've had offers already. I put up a picture with all that stuff laid out in my boat, and I had offers for that one right off the bat. I mean,
Wow.
Chris is the most basic, like when it comes to, everyone knows him as a swim bait guy, but it's like so basic.
I just know what works and what
Yeah.
triggers bass into biting. I mean,
He's
stick
got
with
like
it.
four
we went through that.
brands.
We went through the ankles. What else we got here? These are the small baits.
Oh yeah, I saw.
So yeah, the thin swim.
Is that what you were catching on at Toledo Bend last week?
I caught
Underspin.
a 6.5 and a 4.5 within 5 minutes. I mean, really within 2 or 3 casts of each other. That was incredible.
Interesting.
And then
Yeah.
I never found them again. I burned an hour out there looking for them. I never saw them. I never really got a good
Just
presentation.
a long minnow, like a 5-inch
It's a
minnow.
long profile bait. These
with a little
the Texas
zipper
lakes
tail.
have some kind of shiner in them. That's why the jerk baits work so well out here. There's some kind of that long profile on an underspin is anyway. I hear it's pretty stinking good, but and then I mean
Oh yeah, this guy. You were on this early. Like this whole the Kitex. I mean, they took the world by storm. Like 4 or 5 years ago.
Longer,
They're petering out a little bit. The whole jig-headed minnow thing is kind of taking this over. But
it's just a fish catching machine.
Yeah.
last
For-
year, last
I
year.
mean, it catches big smallmouth, but yeah, it
Giant
catches
smalls.
fish. It doesn't matter where you go. You can throw that, and
Last
you're
year,
gonna catch something.
last
Right.
year OH Ivy, all the guys were throwing that guy right there.
Yeah.
On
For
an A rig.
13 pounders, yeah. No,
No,
not
they're
on a
drop
rig, just on a
shotting it, weren't they?
nope, just on a single ball head.
Oh.
That's what those big ones were eating. Yeah.
Yeah.
See, I didn't
Yeah.
know this. But
Yeah.
Whenever the XPS, when that ran out and before the mag draft came, what soft bait were you filling in that spot?
I mean, I've still got
The
them.
XPS.
So yeah, he was talking about the blackback one. I started using the blackback. I won at West Point throwing the
Yeah.
black. So yeah, I mean they work.
Yeah, so you're
I
still
still
rolling
got
with
right.
that.
There's one
Yeah.
with a reddish, that red tint belly, red pearl belly, and then the greenback.
Yep.
Yeah.
Kind of like a
Greenback.
trout, but it catches fish too.
I had a bunch of the magenta purple ones, yeah, which I've never even got a bite on. Did you ever see those? It's like a magenta back with like a white belly. No.
No,
Maybe it was
I've
a
got-
California run.
I've got some
maybe
with
they're like, oh, there's purple and pink. Send them to
back.
California.
There's one oddball. There's one that's like pink with blue flake and
That was the one, I
the
think.
Delta.
Yeah.
They say that's a good one on the Delta.
Yeah.
I don't know, but
That's why I was able to get them.
I have a bunch of those. I have a bunch, but I
never got to
haven't
buy
figured
them.
out what to do with them. So yeah, we were talking about G-Rat. G-Rat's come out with a new, almost a
Nice.
mag draft,
Yeah,
similar to what
sure.
you're doing.
Absolutely.
Called
Big
that-
fins on it, giant fins. Look at the size of them
It
fins.
looks good. I got some different colors here somewhere, but I think it's called an Executioner.
You rig that on a 6-aught or 7-aught hook, 8-aught, whatever.
Beast
Yeah.
hook.
Yeah.
Underspin, the spinner. It gets bit. I mean, I've only had him a couple of weeks, but yeah, it gets bit. And he's coming out
Good in
with
grass.
a wire harness version with a treble. So
Nice.
Anyway, I'm excited. He's working
Good.
at it. He's
Good.
working at it. And then
Did you help him with that one?
not necessarily. No, he came out with it, and that's kind of probably what he wanted me to help him with right there. So
Yeah.
I'm excited about that one. It's the right profile. It'll get bit. I've already been bit on it, but I never figured it out here. That's a Rago bait.
That's a Rago. Yeah,
I don't know anything about that one. I just got him.
I just
Billed
got
and
'em.
harnessed. Yeah, it's like an old school castaic is what that is.
So yeah, the
Kind of a cranker.
the old Skeet SKT.
Let's see that one.
There's. I got a big one here somewhere too. He's got a gizzard shad that looks stinky.
Old
good.
Ragos. Ragos is still at it, huh? I haven't
Yeah.
seen any of his bites in a while. Very cool.
Yes, yeah. So
That's a good way to start.
I like anyway. I carry them.
Every tournament, every tournament, every
gray,
year,
That's
yeah.
about the closest I've come to my color.
So
You know what I'm saying? I like that translucent
look
gray.
at Chris's and tell me what you think. I want to hear your actual. You can't see it in the water, but
I've never done well on the top hooks. Do you have a harness version? I don't. I've never
I
done.
purposely stayed away from that just because the whole mag draft thing, honestly. I want to try to do something different. Get
it's a
away.
line through.
line through.
Yeah, it's a
Yes.
line through top hook. I want to get away from that where you could kind of creep on the bottom.
So where do you? I don't even know how you tie that on.
Right
So it
between the
goes
nose
through-
right there.
the line goes to the nose. The hook comes out. It's magnetic,
and snaps in with a magnet.
so the hook will slide out if you pull
Oh.
it towards you.
So like
Okay, there you go.
for a lot of the guys like on Gunnersville and the Pickwicks and things like that, I've had monster days with top hook, swim baits out there.
Bass
and,
tricks.
yeah,
And I'm
you
not,
never
I'm
get a
not
mag
sure
draft
the
down there.
the underbelly hook is the best setup, especially when
that.
they hit close and you're pulling
Absolutely,
up. It's
absolutely.
not.
But not only that, but the
But
forward facing
typically
sonar.
every jig hook style bait like this to me has been too heavy
yeah,
for what I have been
Yeah,
doing
yeah.
with
with
that
these
bait.
swim baits. Yeah, you're
With that
floating
bait.
it over their
Right.
head. Yeah,
This bait
yeah. This
it
is
feels heavy to me.
yeah, that's
Yeah,
a
it is.
3/4 ounce spinner bait versus a 1/4 ounce spinner
Right.
bait.
And
Yeah.
if you're chucking it out across the point and
Yeah.
covering water, this is the
Yeah.
deal. But
Yep.
but that's not what I was doing with
Yep.
this.
Yeah,
Right.
we
So-
purposely wanted a little different category there.
But
yeah.
I don't necessarily have a problem with the top hook, but
Yeah.
that's a lot of lead
Yeah.
compared to what I've been doing.
I think that's the heavy version right there. I'll get you a light
Is there
one.
a light,
Yeah, I'll
is
get
there
you
a lighter
I'll get you a
version?
light
Okay,
one as
I
well.
don't know.
Yeah, that's the
Yeah.
heavy.
So that's like a rate of fall 12, and then there's a rate of fall 5.
We went through that one. What else we got down here? Potluck here. I don't even know what I'm pulling out.
That's awesome.
Ooh, yeah, there's one. So what is that? That's the guy here. That
316.
316,
Yeah.
yeah.
316.
Yeah.
What does he call
Mickey
that one?
Ellis.
What does he call that one?
know
What is
the
that
part.
one called? Shadrick? I don't know. No.
So
I don't know.
I kind of added some blue iridescent paint on there. I don't know if you can see
Ooh,
that color. Can you see
nasty.
through the bag? Can
Yeah.
you see through the bag
Yeah.
without pulling them out? It would be so much easier.
Yeah.
Do you throw that one?
I threw it here last time.
That's one
and,
Lee throws. Yeah.
Yeah, and I had that conversation with him. Anyway, it doesn't have the rotating.
Oh yeah, so they get
Doesn't
leverage.
have the rotating.
So-
it gets bit, but
Yeah, bait builders,
I'm-
if you're listening,
it makes a difference. There's the high dollar HPH.
the big
This
one.
is. I mean, this is probably the most gorgeous
Wow. That
bait
is.
I have seen.
That really is.
Yeah, it is pretty. It
That looks just like a gizzard shad.
That looks
Anatomically,
that looks
it
so
does.
good.
Yeah.
I have caught 2 or 3 on it, but doesn't have rotating hook hangers.
But have you ever thrown the Hogfather?
Damn, that thing's nice.
The ones he
Tater
throws?
hog.
I have not. No, I
They're
met
good.
him
They're
at the
good.
classic. I like him. I like
His,
him a lot. But
His paint
He'll send you
skills
baits.
are like that.
Yeah.
beautiful.
He's got some good looking stuff. I know
Yeah.
exactly what you're talking about. Yes.
That
He's
is
got
pretty.
a little smaller one too.
Yeah.
What is it called? The Dogfather Jr. I
Yeah.
guess.
Yeah.
It's good looking stuff, but no, I don't have any of them. You see that one? You know what that is, don't you?
Oh yeah, depths 250.
Depths 250.
Took the swimbait world by storm.
So I totally missed out on this one for a long time, but that bait right there impresses the heck out of me.
It's because it's got the widest glide in its category.
It gets bit.
Yeah.
Doesn't have rotating. I swear that hook needs to be back over here somewhere.
Yeah.
Because they come around 3-pounder will headshot that and never get the hook. It's amazing to me how a 3-pound fish will take a shot at a 10-inch bait like that. But that one's impressed me. I mean, I really, really have been impressed with that bait.
Do you ever throw
Especially
it in
that
a
color.
So that's the one.
That carp color is money.
Butch?
Yeah, Butch Brown.
Butch Brown. That's the bait. Butch cornered the market, bought everyone. I don't know.
Would you ever throw that in a tournament?
I have not.
Yeah.
But I would if I could find the right fish.
Sure.
Right. What would be the right fish for it?
Here.
Yeah.
Here, but they just, anyway, I need to go play around. We only get 3 days of practice. The wind blew 20 to 30 the last day. I mean, you can only do so much. And
so you were probably like me when Lake Fork was put on the schedule in 2024. You're like, late February, Lake Fork. Oh my gosh, that's going to be a swimbait tournament. After day 1 of practice, throwing it, I'm sure you were just like me. You were like, dude, at 5 p.m., I texted Lee. I'm like, any bites on the big bait? He said 0. I'm like, I had 1 bite on it. And then that night, super late at night, he texts me randomly and says, dude, I've been going through all my old guide photos, and all of my big bait bites started at March 15th. It was like clockwork. He goes, going back to 19, 20, 21, March 19th, March 20th, March 15th, March 14th.
I don't
He says
think he
like
wants you giving that
clockwork.
away.
Well, whatever. And then night, late at night, and then I went through all my photos on this lake of all my big swimbait catches. March 20th, March 23rd, March 24th. I'm like, wow, that's it.
Yeah.
We're here too early.
that's, anyway, I think once water gets to 58, they're supposed to show up, but they just did some weird stuff.
They were in the ditches and they were slow, just slow.
If you were someone who wanted to throw swim baits and they lived around here in East Texas, glide bait, what glide bait would you tell them to buy?
So
they just could buy
where
one.
wins? Give me the situation again. I was looking at this one. So
yeah, East Texas, they can only buy one glide bait. This is where they live. They want to start throwing glide baits. What would you tell them to buy?
I like the Sneaky Pete G-Rat is the one
The
I'm
little
gonna pick
guy.
up. I'm gonna pick up that or Papa Pete is the first bait I'm gonna pick up because they're only $30 to $50
And
compared to
to
200. There's
Right. Yeah.
or even if some of these baits are way more than that.
Papa Pete's 9 inches or so, 9 or 10.
It's 9 or 10, right? That's
then the
one I
Sneaky
like to
Pete's
throw.
like
but
7.
Sneaky Pete's the one that's gonna get bit.
Tournament grade. Yeah.
Right. And anyway, that's the first bait I pick up in practice. I throw it around all the time because I don't want to wear the paint off some of these.
Right.
But they're all, for special. There's a special situation for all of them, and
Do you ever do
you
this?
never know what you're gonna find. But that's the first bait I'm gonna pick up almost every time.
Do you ever do the slow reel, like the slow steady reel on glide baits where it just goes like this slowly?
I don't do it a lot, but I've done it with this one. That's what
Because I
Butch-
don't. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what Butch does. What
the
I've
250.
seen with the 250, and it does a very good job swimming.
It's probably
there.
the best one
Papa
at that,
Pete,
yeah.
Papa Pete does pretty well with that too.
So what is your retrieve? Your go-to retrieve with glide baits?
I want to keep it up high in the water column. It's more of a practice bait than
You're using your rod, or are you a reel guy?
I use a rod.
Rod, yeah, like a jerk bait then, like a big jerk bait.
Right,
Yeah.
I can't not.
Yeah.
I can't do the chop.
Yeah.
I do sometimes, but
As long as that thing,
I can't.
as long as
not.
that thing is doing this, and you can
Right.
feel that feedback that it's doing that, then you're golden, rod or reel.
Yeah. So yes.
Interesting.
But yeah, this one does really well on that slow reel like you're talking about. This is one I don't think it's caught on so much, but it looks great to me. The Matt Lures closer.
Looks amazing.
It is. He's done an amazing job.
I
with
see
these
that
baits.
doing really well when the water
So
temperatures
it's-
are real warm, and you need a faster retrieve.
That burning it like
Yeah.
you're doing with the bull
Yeah,
shad, but it's a bigger bait. I've had some incredible bites on these things, dude.
Wow.
Yeah, that's $180 a pop, and I got 1, 2,
Oh, wow.
3.
So you do like them.
I like that one. That is the best looking,
So with that,
and it swims great and gets bit. And
That's a mat lures.
That's the mat lures.
so that one you're gonna burn
Yeah.
with all those
You
joints.
can
Yeah.
you can do it slow. I've actually got a floater that you can just wake on top. Oh my God, that looks so good.
Yeah.
It looks so good.
So the more joints you have in a glide or a hard jointed bait, the less stride you're gonna have. So if you only have one joint, obviously it's gonna break and it's gonna turn left and then right, and then you add another joint and it's not gonna do that. It's gonna
Right.
stay tighter. You add another joint and it stays even tighter, and then that's when you're talking about blueback herring lakes.
So yeah, I got a phony in a bluegill color. It's just a big profile.
And you painted that?
I adjusted it a
Yeah, a
little.
little bit,
I
yeah.
added the purple, and I didn't care for their paint job. But it's just highlight colors, not repainted the whole thing. But I had a bite. I had a bite at Gunnersville. I had on a bluegill bed with that one, but I didn't catch him. Story of my life.
What out of all your glide baits, which one have you caught the most big fish on? Like
Out of the glides,
out of the glides.
the Sneaky Pete by
Really?
far. Yeah, it's
Right.
by far. Especially that custom painted perch one. So the profile is just perfect for a perch, and it's
Yeah.
but
when
it's
you go-
also just a longer, skinnier profile, which
Yeah.
just that's what
Everything.
everything keys on, right? It's a
Standard.
sick version of a gizzard shad, but it's
So when you go, if you're gonna fish up north, a lot of people, because we posted on Facebook asking like, what if you could ask Steve Kennedy something about swim baits? What would you ask? And there were a lot of people about what he would throw up north.
that perch color.
Sneaky Pete.
Perch color Sneaky Pete has been
You've
has
waxed
been-
some big
right. I've
ones.
done it. I've done it at several places. The river, it's mainly a largemouth deal. It's not going to win, but
Right.
I can go catch 19 or 20 pounds pretty easy on it typically. But it gets you beat now. It used to be pretty awesome.
Do you throw?
But I've done it on the lakes, the Finger Lakes up there, where Cayuga. I've done it there.
Yeah. Do you throw glide?
And I've had some bites. Turn the hooks down in practice. I swear I had an 8-pound smallmouth eat that thing one day and never saw him again. I don't know why. I throw it a bunch just practicing. So instead of throwing all that stuff we catch them on, I throw that perch just around, just searching for those big fish. And they
Made it.
typically
They
stay.
show themselves,
They
yeah.
show themselves on
Yeah,
it, right?
yeah.
So, but yeah, occasionally you get one that comes up and eats an 8-inch bait. You're like,
Oh yeah.
wow, but
Yeah.
never there for the tournament.
Yeah.
I'm gonna catch one of them. I have a pretty good pattern. I know what I'm looking for, but it's hard to go do. You got to go do the other stuff. So,
Right.
but
Do you
that's-
ever have these swim baits sprawled out on the kitchen counter like me and have Julia get pissed at you like Trait gets pissed at me? No.
I keep
Or
them
do you have a nice shop? You
downstairs.
keep them in a shop.
I
yeah.
keep them downstairs. So
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
we got a basement. That's that Executioner. That's I showed you the white one earlier. But
Yeah, that's a good color right there.
yeah, I love that one right there. Can you see that
It's
one?
got the wings, dude. Check out the wings on that thing.
Yes, it gets bit, dude. I'm impressed. Really impressed.
Battle
So,
shad,
That's the Citizen.
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 Yeah.
I got a battle
Let
shad.
me see
Have you
this thing.
caught them on it,
I have, yes.
Chris?
I have. I like it. The hookup ratio is
Yeah, that's
Not
what-
so
not-
good. That's what worried me.
That's what
yeah.
Chris
that's what. So
was
yeah,
worried
he's got a
about.
6-inch version. I like that one. I like it a lot. The battle shads
Is it because it's so tall?
somewhere. Yeah, the tall profile and the Citizen is wider across the back. It protects the hook, throwing it in the cover. It gets
Right.
bit though. It's a really good looking gizzard shad bait. I got a battle shad here somewhere. Maybe we'll find it.
What's the difference between the citizen and battle shad?
The battle shad is a more realistic gizzard shad profile. So the top of the back is narrow.
Okay.
There's a little hook slot where it fits in. But it's also, this is like, 2 baits is maybe $35, and one battle shad is, if you can get one, is $90, $100.
Do they hold up?
Tails rip off if you get the.
Wow. Yeah, that's a lot of money.
Yeah. So I had a 6-inch battle shad that I really liked, and yeah, it lasted about 2 or 3 fish, and I paid $90 for it, and I'm like, I can't play this game.
Steve
I
Kennedy,
can't play this game.
how about in the next Swimbait Showdown tournament? Can you show up in long black socks and a flat-billed hat for us?
No.
No? Dang.
Does it have an AU on it? Maybe. Maybe.
Have you?
So yeah, this is a knockoff battle shad profile.
Look at that little thing.
Look at that thing. Look at the
Teeth marks on it,
that
yeah.
thing. It's a little fish catching joker.
It looks like a sassy shad right there.
Somebody gave me that. I don't even know who's making it. Anyway, let's get through the boxes we got here. I don't even remember. What do you call these things?
Oh,
trash fish.
Yeah,
Trash fish. There you go. Again, it's got that blue number.
Those are hot. Those are hot in California. And the Pickwick guys got onto those.
This one works really well on the bottom. That's just the wider profile on the bottom. It stays upright.
It's so weird because that is like a hitch profile. Like that is a hitch. Like there's no other like fish that swims out east that looks like that.
But yeah, throwing this one into a tree and just soaking it around on the bottom, not really reeling it like it doesn't swim all that well, but
you never
you can put it in there and leave it in there, and it doesn't fall over on its side. It sits
just kind of sits.
It sits upright, right? So there's a place for that one. I like that one. I've caught some big ones on that.
Have you ever thrown it in a tournament?
Yes, and caught them. Yes, I've caught several key fish, and they got smaller. Yeah, I love that color. So they got smaller versions, and even
that like minnow color.
There's a little one too. The little bitty one works great on a bed, actually. I'm dumping everything out, but beast hooks.
Gotta have those.
Beast hooks in every size and every color.
Gotta have them.
12/0, 3/4.
Yeah. Gotta have
That's my kind of bait.
Yeah.
Golly.
Yeah, if you're tying those on in a tournament, that's gonna be a fun tournament.
Yes. Yes. Oh, I love. Anyway. Yes. But again, when you're playing that, the hookup ratio goes.
So you like
goes down.
Sure.
Do you throw a swimbait on a bed a lot?
Occasionally, yes. That's not my first choice, but it's always. I guess that's always been a beaver. G-Rat's got a flipping bait I'll probably use a bunch of going forward, but yeah, I like putting a swim bait in there, especially if you got a bigger fish.
Right.
I think we lost our background light.
We did. They just go out. They just went out.
I didn't notice at all, but
they're not plugged in.
Anyway, you got a bigger fish and just trying to get their attention. A swim bait, especially, just get them agitated and then come back with their more typical bait is. It's a play. I mean, it's.
Have you been playing with forward-facing sonar and swim baits a lot lately?
I have. Yes, I've tried it. Like I said, I like it more in scout mode, and you can't see more than maybe 40 feet.
That's good.
40 feet, once you get out in that 60, it gets too busy because you're picking up everything. You're picking up everything else, even the surface, the way I got mine set up. So
you know what I find myself doing with forward-facing sonar? I did the first week of the first day of this tournament, also in practice. But I throw a big glide out there. I see a big blob, right? And you saw the guys at Lake Fork do it this week with the jerkbait. See the blob? Here comes a jerkbait, blah blah blah, and they're like looking at the screen the whole time and just waiting for the 2 dots to connect. I found myself like tapping into the old glide baiting style. Like I would see the blob, I'd cast to it, I'd see my glide bait approaching the blob, and then I'd literally look away or look at the bait and just like go back to like the cadence and retrieve that I know, because I don't want to see those 2 dots connect, and I don't want to swing early. I just want to feel that bite.
Right, and you're sitting there trying to move your foot. And
exactly. And then all of a sudden your cadence gets broken up because the slack is wrong. Like if you concentrate on the actual cadence,
he's looking at it.
Yeah,
right. But there's advantages to seeing how they're reacting too.
Sure.
But if they're gonna eat it, they're
gonna.
They usually come and get it. That's the. So yeah, there's another one that's pretty interesting to me. Yeah, that's a Rago line through gizzard shad.
Wow, that's got a HUD tail. The split HUD tail.
It's enough to move the head. So
Where's the hook on? Oh, it's a bottom hook hanger.
It's a bottom hook, line through type deal. I've never been a real fan of those lead weights because they pull through.
Through them, yeah.
They pull through, especially on a bait that big. Anyway, but I love that profile.
What do you think?
I have a 9-inch. Okay. So here's the battle shad. That was what we were talking about. So the battle shad's just got a narrower back. Can you see that? Can you see that? It's got a narrower back with a hook slot there. I've caught a few fish. The nose will blow out. They've got the new one has a harness in there. I don't know how it's set up, but yes,
that one's got some teeth marks on it.
Yeah, that one's got some teeth marks. I think I caught one in the Classic on that one.
Wow.
At Ray Roberts.
Yeah.
I think I did. It happened. And I actually caught him. That's the best part.
Yeah, actually
it was like a 4-pounder.
Is there a swim bait idea that you have that people aren't doing that you wish someone would make with you or do? Or
there's some ideas we're not going to talk about.
Yeah, good for you. Good for you.
Come on now.
Yeah.
No, I would do a lot of stuff different. That's a Matt Lures. Cannot recall what he. So I actually bought
big old bulbous tail.
I bought some baits from a guy off Underground or Universe.
That's how you get around the HUD tail right there. You just make it different, and it just kind of gives it that
he
same
makes some good looking stuff,
yeah.
for sure. So, but some guy that I bought some other baits from sent me 2 of these. I guess he knew who I was, but I carry them in the boat. There's a time and a place for them. There's no doubt there's a time and a place for that. That is a good looking bait. So.
Your swim bait collection's way bigger than mine.
His is basic.
This is what I got in the boat.
He's got negotiators, tater hogs, and
so that one's got teeth marks
on
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one's.
She's been crushed.
So what is it that you like about those working class zero baits? Like, what do they do that
it's just the best
big profile.
Gizzard shad profile.
Yeah.
Anatomically correct. Yeah. Soft bait.
Right. It is. So so the whole swim bait deal got started with trout. The HUD, I guess, was where it really got kicked off, but we don't have trout, so.
But it's a give and take, right? Once you build up this tall gizzard shad profile, your hookup ratio goes way down.
It goes down.
So when you shrink it down to that fusiform
when the fish
shape,
bites a bait like this, he's gonna bite it this
sideways.
Sideways.
Yep.
When he clamps on, if he doesn't suck it all the way in, which they can, but he gets it here, and your hookup ratio goes down. But yeah, that's just the best gizzard shad profile. This one by far. But like I said, these are so hard to get and so expensive. I mean, they are, but gorgeous baits. And then I like the white too, the pearl white. That's a 7-inch. This is a 6-inch.
I think have you ever taken deconstructed a HUD?
And I have a 9-inch version of this, and somehow it didn't get in my boat to come to port.
Have you ever deconstructed a Huddleston? So a HUD has got weight at like a little weight cell at the bottom, and then the foam cell at the top. If you somehow made in your garage or in Julia's kitchen, a foam cell up top, weight at the bottom, that would fit in this cavity right here, and then had a little hook hanger at the bottom, I think that would be killer. So it'd be a treble hook, and would stay.
So even if they clamp this way, you got a chance of getting him.
Yeah.
But I mean, the hookup ratio is not terrible with this bait because the point stays up on top. The Citizen, which is wider like this, is worse to me. I like this one better, but like I said, they're so hard to get. So that's a white version of the Battle Shad. And I've got these 2, and then I got a 9-inch, and I had a 6-inch, but it got ripped in half. So
that's it. These are
the 6-inch would get bit, but it didn't last long. So that's anyway. I should have thrown that here. I really should have, but. There's so many options.
Have you ever asked them why they don't make more?
That used to be your favorite.
Oh, yeah.
That's an 8-inch.
That's an 8.
Have you ever?
I've got 6 inches. I got a whole box of 6 inches still in the boat. So they got a glimmer blue version that I really like.
That new one.
The classic. Yeah, that one was good to me last year.
Have you ever talked to Working Class Zero and asked them why they don't make more and?
No, I've never. There's some interesting
Take what you
characters
get,
in this
yeah.
world.
Oh, yeah. In this world, you're doing okay. This is a Swimbait episode, so it's a Swimbait world. Yeah, very interesting characters.
I don't. So I mean, most of the garage guys have been in California, and like you said, they haven't really caught on to the Gizzard shad. He's the first guy that's really caught on to that.
Yeah.
There's some
very accurate.
There's some garage guys making the glides now that are back.
We don't have gizzards in I mean, we have a few in in Arizona, Nevada, but
I don't need to mess up these. I gotta get these in here
right.
No, you don't want to jack
I don't want to
up.
kink these up too bad, but they're so hard to store.
You gotta store them in the original packaging. That's the only way to store them.
Yeah, there's no room for all this. We're getting close. I think we're getting close.
And this is just what was in your boat for this trip.
This is that's what I said. There was one more box in the other locker that I forgot to get. I got a couple of phonies. There's one I painted that.
So you have a lot of phonies.
Yeah, they're cheaper than the Hinkles. That's the only thing I'll say. They're cheaper than the Hinkles. So yeah, that was like a bright pink one, and I painted it that black and blue. And I haven't caught one in a tournament on it, but I like that one. It's more of a bluegill, dark bluegill color, I guess.
That one the phony you said is kind of hard to work.
Yeah, I made it through.
The phony's kind of hard to work, you were saying earlier?
So they get out of adjustment. I don't know. So they got a pin through the two eyes, and I'll get one that
catch a fish on
that works, and then it doesn't swim right. So it's a lot of work to keep them. I don't know why mine did that, and then I hit them I adjust them on the dock. That's probably more what's going on.
Well, that's the whole.
I break off the tails.
That's the whole thing with this whole swim bait world, right? Everything is custom. Everything is custom made, hand built, hand painted. So you're not going to have two that are the same. There's a million Strike King 6XDs out there. They all swim the same. Got to tweak them just a little bit, maybe every now and then, but they all swim the exact same. Right. You get yourself 4 different G-Rats. You get your 4 different Hinkle shads. 4 different tater hot, they're all going to be different, and that's
the
that's
way
the
they
thing.
mix the
resin, the paint color,
right.
Yeah,
they get
everything.
more air or less air in them, and then they have to weight them, and then there's a whole deal to just getting tuning them, and they don't all swim the same. But again, that's $120 to $160 bait, whereas a Hinkle is I got one for $250, but you're talking $400 or $500 if you really want one.
Yeah.
So you can get three for one.
And that's why they invented the forum, so you could bitch about it there,
Yeah,
so I got a few questions that are from fans. And these are kind of vague questions, so, do your best.
Okay.
When is the best time, and Chris, you can chime in too, when is the best time to downsize or upsize your swim bait?
I don't do a lot of downsizing with swim baits. I really, really don't. I mean, other than the Kitech. So, we're dealing with smallmouth.
That's different. Yeah,
right,
different.
Or spotty bass or something like that. So I'll throw the Kitech. But that, to me, is not true swim baiting, I guess.
Yeah, so 7-inch?
7-inch is a good starting point. If I'm gonna go play, if I'm practicing whatever, I like throwing the bigger bait just to get them to show themselves.
Yep, exactly, and I agree with that.
And not actually eat the bait. Yeah. You don't want them to eat the bait. You don't want them to feel it. So it's more of just get them to show themselves. So that's a lot. And we don't get all that many opportunities in tournament situation to do it. It's got to be. If it's not an ideal situation, you're fixing to get beat. So
it's true.
you got to know. Yeah.
If you're in a tournament situation, you've got an 8-inch glide bait on, and let's say you have 5 to 6 followers and or 5 to 6 bites, and you're sitting there thinking to yourself, maybe I should downsize. You go from an 8-inch glide bait to a 5-inch glide bait. You will get 3 followers or 3 bites on that thing instead of the 5, 6, 7, and that's just how it is. The drawing power substantially shrinks when you downsize.
Right? So
period.
Downsizing is
you might as well throw a spinnerbait at that point.
That's not what you're doing with
exactly.
a swim bait.
Exactly.
That's not what you're doing with a swim bait.
There's no such thing as downsizing a swim bait.
And
really.
15 years ago, when I 20 years ago when we first started doing this, these fish had never seen any of this.
Yeah.
So it was, it was a lot easier to do back then.
Yeah.
Now, like you said, there's a whole culture of it,
Yeah.
not necessarily related to tournament fishing. And there's a lot of guys out there
Right.
doing it, and
It's
it takes the edge off. So
True. Is there, which you've kind of touched on this sort of, but you keep saying it a lot too. Is there such thing as perfect conditions for a swim bait? If so, what are they?
I wouldn't say there is. Definitely, you need wind, chop on the water helps.
Mm-hmm.
It can. I like overcast. I mean, that prefrontal day, the day before the front comes in. That's
Right.
the deal.
Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily
they
have to be
chill.
overcast, but the day after the fronts come through, the post frontal day is
Sucky.
it's never good. It's
Yeah.
the fish. I guess they move to the bottom. I don't
They
know.
don't chase.
They don't chase.
Yeah.
There's and it's typically on a 3 or 4 day cycle, I guess.
Right.
So yeah, if you miss it, you almost don't get it in the tournament again. So, but
What if someone has $200 to buy one swim bait? What swim bait should they buy?
$200. So
Mm-hmm.
it depends on what they're fishing
Yeah.
for. It depends on where they are in the country.
Yeah.
I mean, for the gizzard profile,
Is that so the south and the southeast is gizzard profile?
Yeah.
Would you
most,
say?
yeah. So yeah, the phony maybe, or the soft baits that other citizen.
A Citizen?
Right. Well, I guess you can get a battle shed, I guess, for that. But
Those
And then
soft baits are $200.
well, no,
They're like 90 though, aren't they?
I paid
What?
90. I paid 90
For one?
for a 6-inch, and that's not
Yeah.
from him
Oh my
directly.
gosh.
Yeah.
Right.
And I paid probably 90 or 100 for a 9-inch for a single one, and I probably paid.
Yeah, I think they're like 90 when they drop them.
Scalpers.
There's something crazy.
they're
like that.
scalping them a little bit.
Yeah.
But the 7-inch is probably 70
Ooh,
for one
good
day.
for him,
dude.
man.
I can't do it, dude.
Good
I mean,
for
like I said, I
him.
got one or two, and I had to do it. But I mean, the G-Rat is. It catches fish everywhere
Right.
we go too.
I think that goes with what's the best economically friendly swim bait that you have used over the years.
the G-Rat has been, yes, especially, and anyway, he's given me a bunch of them, so I doctor them up, I've painted them, I've played with them a lot.
Are there any mods that you do that you could recommend to people who
So
buy them?
I mean, yeah, we just talked about it. At some point, I'm gonna have to do a video on how I'm doing it. But yeah, I'm drilling out 2 of the ball bearings, replacing them with smaller lead,
Right.
and
Foam.
foaming it, and then
Yeah, you
custom
got to do a
painting it.
video.
Right. I need to. I'm gonna have to do it at some point.
Definitely.
And so it lightens it up, and it's very realistic looking.
I like it.
It works.
So I've got
it
a mod.
works. But again, you can buy 4 or 5 or 6 of them for that, and even if you mess one up, it's
Yeah, you're not hurting.
you're right. I like them.
I've got a mod I want to share that I never ever talk about, but like going back to the mag drafts, I used to throw a lot of mag drafts or like the comeback shad, anything that's got any soft plastic swim bait that's got an internal wire harness. You crack a couple of them, right, and they jump, and then that internal harness bends, and then the very next cast, it's like, just like a crankbait. You could grab your pliers or even just use your hands and fingers and bend that internal harness back to square, and then you're straightened up. Honestly, a lot of people that goes right over their heads, like, oh, that bait's ruined. No, you could literally bend the internals of it. If it's going up right like this, and bend it back down left, and then it'll start swimming straight again.
Interesting.
Never talk about that one.
Well, you can now.
And then here's another mod. Here, hand me that bait right there.
This one,
Yeah.
the big man.
Yeah, so here's another one. See that toothpick right there? See how, so the magnet sucks. In the 8-inch it sucks, 6-inch it's fine, but like in the 8-inch, I stick a toothpick in the side right there to hold that
And
treble
put the
hook.
hook in
Yes.
there, so
And I also grab my pliers and shrink these and pinch these down to where they're just straight gaff and frog hook. You get a lot that, get it in the gills and things like that. Do the Mountain Dew trick or whatever if they're bleeding, but that's how you don't lose them right there. But especially if you're skipping underneath docks and stuff.
So I usually use the soft bait glue and
Yeah.
close up that gap.
Yeah.
And there's a there's a hole there typically. So yeah,
Yep.
and then I make it solid and then stick the hook point in it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that would work.
Of course, you're talking about Mend It. Mend It's the that's
the brand.
That's the
right.
juice.
There's
You
I
gotta
think
have
there's more
Mend It.
than one.
You can't be a swim bait guy without Mend It. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Because tails go crooked. They shred off or whatever.
What's your favorite swim bait lake? What's your favorite swim bait lake? Sorry.
This one's been okay, but I hadn't caught them great, but I've had
Lake
some
Fork.
incredible
Have you been back
bites.
to Clear Lake since 07?
We went back one time afterwards and did not catch them.
No,
I
it
didn't
wasn't
make
good.
top 50.
Yeah,
No,
that's how that-
So I'm trying to think. I mean, I love throwing it up on the St. Lawrence. Anytime we got moving water, I like
Tennessee
it,
River.
but
Tennessee River's good swim bait lakes.
I caught them at Santee on the mag draft
Yeah,
last year.
yeah.
Any place you
On
got
trees.
big fish, it's
good.
It's good, right? That's a big part of it. So
this is I don't know if you can answer this, but what are ways to turn followers into bites at a higher percentage?
You gotta switch. You gotta switch bait. You gotta throw Senko on them.
I don't even think that'll get them to bite.
Yeah.
Like
It's
I
a
said,
tough
we
one.
were talking about the old XPS. The trigger with that one was making it kind of just that little bit of speed up enough to make it flinch. Flinch. So, but I mean, with the glides, it's a real fast just and then kill it. I do it with the jig all the time, but you fish it high and fast and then kill it. And that change of direction is what triggers the bite.
Get it,
So I always called it the Crazy Ivan. What's the movie? The Hunt for Red October.
Yeah,
So he goes left to right. But yeah, you get him chasing fast and then kill it.
Right.
Whether that's sideways or down or whatever. Just
something.
They're either going to run into it or they're going to bite it. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So
that's good advice.
So speeding up is usually better, but again, there's no hard rules
rhyme or
in it.
reason.
Right. There's
Yeah.
no hard rules in this. So
what is the deciding factor when choosing a soft bait over a glide bait or vice versa? I'm just
many. I know. There's
it's all feel. It's like how you feel, really.
Right.
I mean,
they'll bite both. I mean, they'll bite a Cinco. Most of the fish that are up where we want to catch them will bite a lot of different baits. So you try to fish one that gets the biggest bites, and you can get them in the boat.
Right.
But actual which one is the right one is.
So it's all an experience thing.
It's all experience.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a lot of time on the water, and there are no hard and fast rules on anything, even time of year, where the fish are positioned. It's go fishing and let the fish tell you what's going on. And
right.
So
the way I answer that question is like typically speaking, like just generally speaking, like pre-spawn, think of like a chatterbait, slow, up, soft swim baits, and then like in the post spawn, get that glide bait going a little faster. Water temperatures rise a little bit. They're chasing a little more, typically speaking. But again, you could throw the soft baits in post spawn as well. But typically speaking,
the shad
slow,
spawn is when I've done the best with the 6-inch,
right?
By far.
Yeah.
So.
Interesting.
But I got bit here on the 6-inch. That's the only bite I had, and it was probably a 7 or 8 pounder, and I lost it. But it's a common theme. It's a common theme with swim baits. Get used to it.
These fish are too mean for those small hooks, dude. They need those big giant hooks. I mean, the guy Matty Wong was in the top 11, and he was catching big ones on a glide bait with forward facing sonar, and he was like figure 8ing them over the side of the boat and stuff.
Which bait was that? That was
86.
Was it 86 baits?
Yeah,
was it
not
a
to blow
bluegill?
it up for him or whatever, but no, it was just a Gizzard 86.
Was it a Gizzard or a bluegill? It looked bluegill color. One I thought I saw, but I think it was 86. I don't have any of their baits.
What do they call that thing? It's got a weird, like something megalodon, not megalodon.
No, I don't know.
Doom Rider or Doom Raider or something like that.
Yeah. Clutch. I've got some.
Clutch makes a good one. They make a really good one.
They got a longer profile. I had some of them in the boat. I didn't get everything. Obviously, I didn't get anything. I grabbed a lot, but
Well, Steve,
I
you
carry those
said
around
a lot.
typically.
You said a lot tonight. We didn't get
I'm
any.
not done yet. I got one more.
Oh, really?
Oh, here we go.
Okay.
Just name. And I know you say there's a
Then we
situation.
go back to forward facing.
No, no.
Worse. Bring it.
Uh-oh.
No.
There's I know you say there's a swim bait like conditions. There's so many different conditions and so many different swim baits.
Prefrontal is the deal. They come up in the water column.
Yeah.
That's a must-have swim bait.
That's not a must, but it's
Are you
it
ever?
seems to be.
Are you ever not going to be throwing a swim bait in pre-front conditions?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
It just depends on the water color, and there's so many scenarios.
Right.
So-
He's just saying they bite it best then. I
Right.
think that's,
Yeah.
but your ears better be up when it's coming, you know?
Right. I mean, I got hooked on the swim jig here. That's probably my best deal. Even everybody, the
Yeah,
jig.
the white swim jig.
Right. There's more money won on a jig than
Yeah.
a swim bait.
And you land them too.
Right, and
most
you
of
land the
time, yeah.
bites you get. So yeah, that white swim jig, I won so much money on that. And I mean, here I was throwing a green pumpkin, and without that front coming through, which I mean, it kills any bite up shallow. But
Right.
but it was pretty impressive. This
It-
place has got them.
It
It
so
just didn't work out that we got to stay around and play.
I mean, but in saying all that, what are, and we know where you stand with the G-Rats, but your 3 favorite of the custom swim baits?
Of the custom.
Yeah, like if you could have more of, or
So the trick shad by Bull Shad is probably the one I've actually put the most fish in the boat with just in the last year. So I've only had it a year. I caught several on it. The BGC 7-inch got bit, but I couldn't put them in the boat.
can I ask you what you like so much about the trick shad specifically? Like
So
what
the
it
way
does?
the way it chops, it dives when I'm
that's the
chopping.
one.
It
Yeah.
dives when I'm chopping it, and then comes up when I slow down.
Yeah,
So I can fish it around trees and cover
right. Yeah,
more effectively.
I remember now.
Right. I was impressed with that one. Really
Interesting.
impressed.
You're gonna need to like locate some of those before this podcast comes out Tuesday.
And then
I'm good.
You're so
I'm
sweet.
stuck in my ways.
He's so
I'm an old man.
simple. You would be. Everyone thinks he's a swim bait guy that has all these different swim baits. He literally, it's a tater hog, a negotiator.
Threw a HUD a lot
I
this
wish
week.
I had.
Yeah.
I wish I had the tater hogs because they appear to be a great
I'll
bait,
get you
just
some.
out in open
I'll get you some.
water, not
I promise you, I'll
not
get you
cover related. Just
Yeah,
some. I'll
But-
have a couple free in Florida.
yeah. I would
Promise.
love to have.
that's all
one.
he
Right. It is no doubt. I've watched it. It's got a really good glide, open water, just swimming it across a point, which is not necessarily what all these others are. But and then the other 7-inch, that BGC 7, but it doesn't have the rotating hook hangers and
Right.
it's more of a wide normal glide.
That's
to
the one
it.
you were saying is kind of smoother.
Yeah, it fishes very well, but again, I can't put them in the boat, so why even?
Yeah, why use
Why
it?
do it? But I took the time to paint one up. I liked it, and
Interesting.
and then I mean the Hinkle's just an incredible bait. I got a lot more of the phonies, but it's incredible bait. It's just finding the right fish in the right
Yeah,
situation to
and
throw it.
it's heavy. The fish
It's
get a lot
heavy.
of leverage on it. Yeah,
Right. So yeah, I think Milliken hooked up last week. Did you see that drone shot of that one he lost and actually got on stage and said he wished that was the biggest one he had lost, and
Oh wow.
so he's anyway. I had a guy come up and say he's getting bit on some big baits and get ready, and
That's
he
awesome.
didn't catch them, and I don't know if he did it here or not, but
Wow.
I'm pretty sure that's what he was throwing. I think
That
that's what I
Hinkle.
saw him throwing. Yeah, so.
Interesting.
But again, that's probably the hardest one to get your hands on of any of them. And like I said, at $400 or $500 a pop, I'm out. I got one, but
Yeah.
I'm
That's
out.
awesome. Well, Steve, you said a lot. We like to wrap up every one of these Bilge podcasts asking our guests to give the viewers some basic life advice. But since I gave you 2 swim baits, I'm going to ask 2 questions. Give me your best swim bait advice, general swim bait advice, and then give me your best life advice to wrap things up.
I know.
No,
know.
you got
give me
to.
a hand. You didn't
Yeah.
get Julia.
Yeah.
Help me out here.
Okay, we'll start with best swim bait advice.
Best swim bait advice?
Generally speaking.
Throw it on that, that perfect prefrontal day
Yeah.
when they're chomping.
Obvious cover,
So-
right? Bridges.
So
Rip
yeah,
wrap.
the thing I probably did better than anybody over the years was knowing when to upsize, take advantage of that.
Yeah.
So that having the heaviest winning weight ever and 3 belts over 100, and it's knowing when to dial it up, and it's hard to know when to dial it down, but yeah,
There's no such thing as dialing it down or downsizing. Really, you got to go for it. Yeah, but
right.
knowing when to go for it's the key.
That's-
And experience tells you that.
key, and just you gotta try it. You gotta keep it honest, and so. But I don't know, life advice.
Yeah,
really?
give us some
All
life
right.
advice. Yeah,
I don't know.
you're a happy.
Follow your dreams. Yeah.
Good,
So
yeah.
I mean, it may cost me in the end here,
Yeah.
but we've been having a blast,
Good,
absolute
good.
blast doing what we're doing, and I wouldn't change a thing. So,
I will say, we love
follow your dreams. That's,
when we see you on social media, you, your wife, your kids, every event, you'll stay a few days after, go out on the lake, go on hikes.
yes, I had to come off early to come do this. What
Yeah.
are we doing?
That is so cool. So that's
yes.
great.
Oh, we love the travel. The travel
Yeah.
is probably the best part of what we
Good.
do. I know
Good.
there's a bunch of guys that can't wait to get home.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't get that. But
Good.
So we leave here. We're heading to Dallas and got a wedding next Friday. So
Well, there you go.
we're gonna go check out what's the next classic.
Oh,
So-
Tulsa.
No, where's
Ray Roberts.
Oh, Ray Roberts.
Yeah.
That's by
I'm
our
gonna
house.
go over to Ray Roberts.
Yeah.
I led day one there last time.
Yeah.
I'm 75th in the points, so we're only 2 events in though, so we're just getting
You'll be
started.
all right. You'll be all right.
I need to get there though.
You'll be
I
all
had
right.
an opportunity to win that one. Some of it was on Swimbaits actually,
Yeah.
but most of it was swim jig.
We live 30 minutes from there, so if you need anything, you give us a holler. But we want to thank you for coming on. It's been awesome. Thank you for showing us your elaborate collection of swim baits.
And I'm missing a
Thank
few
you
too.
so
I know,
Yeah.
that's what's crazy.
Well, show them on live these next few tournaments and
there
kill
you
it
go.
down in Florida and
be
throughout the
fun.
rest of the year. So, Steve, thank you so much. You did great.
Yes.
Thank you, Steve.
We'll
yeah,
see you at
that'd be
the next
nice,
one.
you know.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Yes.
Thanks, Steve.